Good evening. Hope everybody's keeping well. Welcome to The Other Opinion. I'm joined tonight by Paul, Luke, and Jose. How you doing, Luke?
Good evening.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. I'm all good. How about you?
I'm all good, mate. Had a busy day, but I'm here. Looking forward to the show. Jose, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Nice to be on with you, Dan, and also nice to meet Luke and to meet Paul.
So none of us have all met before. I know I met Jose, but not met Paul, not met Luke.
No.
I'm fairly new to the streaming life. I've only really started in the last couple of weeks, really.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah. How are you, Paul?
Looking forward. I'm really good, thank you. Life is pretty good, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow night's thrashing of AZ, whatever they're called.
You're confident?
Very confident.
Oh, good. That's good. Look, guys, whoever's watching, haven't got anyone here yet. We've got the Hotspur guy. Evening to you. Hope you're keeping well. I'm sure some more people will join us throughout the evening. So, look, everybody knows my current stance on the club. I'm very Ange out, Levy out. A lot of people I stream with on YouTube, it's the same discussions. You know, we all want Levy out. We're not happy with Ange, not happy with the season. And I wanted to get some different opinions on the show tonight. And that's what I've done. So thank you guys for all coming on. Jose, I know you're a bit more like myself. We don't agree on everything, but yeah, we do have different opinions, but it's great for you to come on as well. So let's start off with Luke. How are you feeling about the season, how it's gone? What's your current stance on Ange?
Current stance on Ange is definitely in. I don't think the season's gone as well as we would have hoped, that's for sure. But I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances in regards to that. I mean, the injuries, which a lot of Ange out, it's effectively all on him. When other teams have injuries, that's not all on the manager. And I feel like at the moment there's a lot of fans within the fan base that have a lot of things that they don't like about the club, and they seem to be pushing that all on Ange at the moment. So medical staff blaming him for transfers, blaming him for virtually everything, and there's obviously a lot more that's involved in the club. Medical team's been poor for years, that sort of stuff. I just feel like he's taking the kind of brunt of it at the moment because there's a lot of anger within the fan base.
Okay. And Jose, how are you feeling right now, and how the season's gone, and your kind of stance on Ange at the moment?
I'm not happy with how the season's gone because it's been a poor season. If you're going to look at it on the point side, the footballing side, you know, you look at it all and it's been a poor season. However, where I sit is I think the blame for this season is apportioned in 6-7 different areas. And I don't think it's one person that should carry the blame all on their shoulders, whether it be Ange, whether we're going to say it's Levy, whether we say it's Mung, whether we say it's Langa, whether we say it's the player, whoever it may be. For me, there's just a culmination there. And for me, it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because it's all intertwined. I mean, I can look at the areas that I think that we've been poor in, and I think we've been poor in every area, right? There's been poor. We've had poor areas all throughout the season, but I can't blame it on the one person. Well, I can't blame it on one person. I just think it's a culmination of things. So if I look at it, you know, some people are going to look at Levy and say, you know, he doesn't put the football first. He gets involved. He makes wrong decisions, and people are going to say that. But then I look at the board. I'm not happy with the board myself because the board are all There's no footballing people on board. So for that part, I'm not happy with that because there's no footballing people there. I expected to have at least a football person on board. I don't believe we've got anything there. And then I look at our recruitment. And if I look at our recruitment, I believe that our recruitment's been very, very poor in the sense that in the summer, we were left about 5 players short of a squad. And that's not Angie's fault. That ain't the players' fault. That ain't the coach's fault. And it ain't the medical staff's fault. That squarely falls on the shoulders of people not being able to tie deals up, people not being able to convince people to come to our club, whatever it may be. So for me, I look strongly in the direction of Langer and Scott Munn. Now, Langer, and I said this till I'm blue in the face, Langer, Aston Villa didn't stand in his way when we went in for him. They were happy to get rid of him because they were bringing Monchi in. So they were happy to get rid of him. And they never stood in his way. They never put him on gardening leave. So I thought there was a lot of telltales there for when we brought him in. And for me, he's not able to tie up deals. I didn't think he tied up many deals at Villa. And I think he's come to us and we've got that. I then look at the injuries that we've got. The injuries ain't all high-line football and people playing inverted and stuff like that. The injuries have happened, and okay, you get an injury, but we're not getting the players back from injury. And when they do come back, the injuries are reoccurring again. And there's no smoke without fire. But we've now got players leaving Tottenham to go to their own doctors, and now publicly saying my own doctor sorted me out, not the Tottenham medical team. So I think the medical team are to blame as well there. I don't think it's down to one person. It's the medical team. I look at our coaches. I look at the coaches' CVs, should I say. And when I look at the coaches' CVs, they don't fill me with joy and with glee that they've done much in their previous coaching lives. Yet that's the coaches that we've got. So I'm not sure about the coaching at Tottenham and the coaching staff. The manager, the manager's going to take some blame on this for me as well, because although we've had injuries, the players that were left behind, i.e. the players that weren't injured, you have to then pick your teams from them players. And we didn't rotate. We kept picking the same players over and over again. I go back to when we had the centre-half problems. Dorrington came on for half hour against Southampton. Dorrington is a natural centre-half. All right, if you'd given him 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, you're saving minutes off other people and keeping them away from getting injured. And he never used Dorrington. You had players like Ajayi who's been underused. Oluwaseyi for me has been underused. Mikey Moore's been underused. It's, you can't then say, we've had injuries and now our players are just knackered because you've picked the same players over and over again. Even, as I said, if you give players 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there, then you're saving 5 or 10 minutes from the other players that are now knackered. And so I think some of that comes down to age. I think the players that we've got, some of them nick a living at our club, to be honest. I just think that they underperform and they end up nicking a living. They don't play for the badge. They don't play for the jersey. They just come in and nick a living. But I think, in all honesty, players, this has become more prevalent in the last 20 years. Over 20 years ago, players would come to a club and they played with a badge and they played with a shirt. But I think they play for more for money now. So for me, it's an all-round problem, not just one problem. I believe that we've got a multitude of problems, and it's what comes first, Dan. It's the chicken or the egg. I mean, are we going to say that Levy's at fault for all of this because he hires everyone? And that's what I mean. So people will bang on at Levy, but I just think that you bring people in. It's the same as, I manage teams at work, and you bring people in to do a job, and you expect the job to be done. And if the jobs are not done to the requirements, you have a chat with these people. You manage these people. You have a chat with them. But I don't want to see Levy micromanaging. I want Levy to do what Levy does, and I want the people that he brings in to do what they've got to do. But I feel that at the top, as I said in the boardroom, we don't have enough football people. So for me, I spread our poor season around. I'm not just blaming the one person.
Yeah, Jose, that was a very in-depth view. So many areas, so many. I mean, that's practically all of them, all the different areas of the club, right?
It is because the problems for me, they're intertwined. They are intertwined, and there's no getting away from it. We've had a poor season. There's no getting away from it. No one can hide and say there's no excuses. You can't put any defence up for this. We've had a poor season, and it's now a case of between now and the end of the season is looking, or someone has to do surgery on the club to have a look at where we're going wrong, what we're doing wrong, and rectify it pretty quick, because I don't want to see another season like the season we've just had, because we don't, as fans, we don't deserve a season like that. I mean, years and years ago, Paul heard me earlier saying that I've been a Tottenham supporter for over 50 years, and so has Paul. So we've seen some tragic times. We've seen our club nearly go bust. We've seen infighting with the board level a fair few times, not just under one reign, a few reigns. We've seen some really hooky teams, really hooky sides that we've had. We've had some poor Tottenham teams, but
we've seen relegation.
Yeah, we've seen relegation back in the mid-70s as well. But like you said, Dan, backstage, equally, we have seen some trophies, Paul and I. But, for what we've got now, this big, glorious stadium, and, the spotlight is a lot more on teams now than what it used to be. Back in the day, back in the 70s, that they'd highlight probably three teams, and they'd get all the coverage and get all the highlights, get all the press, they get everything. Now, a lot more teams are getting it, and Tottenham are one of those teams because of that lovely stadium we've got and the lovely training facilities we've got. So, therefore, the light is definitely going to shine at Tottenham. And it hasn't shone brightly this year. And someone's just put in the chat, the one good news that came out today from the club, season tickets have been frozen. The prices have been frozen.
Right. There's some real bad feedback. I don't know who it is. Could everybody Luke, can you just mute yourself for a minute?
Yeah.
It's not you. All right. Unmute yourself. Paul, can you mute yourself, mate? Can still hear it. Jose, mute yourself. It's you, man. Yeah. Really bad feedback.
What can we hear? What can you hear?
It's like an internet connection line. You know when the old internet dial-ups?
Yeah. It's a telex coming through.
Okay.
Have you got a different setup tonight, mate?
I've just bought a new broadband, like super duper broadband. I've only just bought it. I bought it on Friday.
Oh dear.
Does it come with a chime?
No. Is it really making a noise? Because I can't hear nothing.
Yeah, it's a bit of feedback.
Yeah. Well, let's see how we go.
Let me come out and I'll come back in.
All right. Paul, how do you think this season's gone? And yeah, what's your stance on Ange?
I think the season has been pretty much a curate's egg. It's been good in parts. I don't think it's been the big disaster everyone's making it out to be. Yes, I know we've had 18 defeats, 16 of which were by only 1 goal margin. 8 of those games could have easily been draws or wins. I feel that I've seen us play some fantastic football when I went up to Manchester for the game at City and we won 4-0 unexpectedly. Yes, I know Manchester City are going through a transition, but it was still a very good team. Their second team would have been good enough normally to have done well. I've seen us beat Manchester United 3 times this season. Also, that's pretty unheard of. We've beaten Aston Villa 4-1. We've beaten West Ham 4-1. We've beaten Ipswich 4-1. Yes, I know we lost to Ipswich at home. I know we've only taken 1 point out of 6 against Leicester. But I have seen some lovely football, something I hadn't seen in the reigns of both Mourinho and Conte. So I still feel this season is so far from over. all our eggs are now in one basket. I think we've given up on the league because what's the point if we finish 11th all the way through to 17th? It's very little. As long as we go to Bilbao and win the final, whether it's against Lazio or Man United or whoever it will be. Probably Jose. Well, no, Jose's gone out, I think, now. Or he'll go out tomorrow night. Let's hope. So, yeah, I think the season's not as bad as everyone's making out. I think people have very short memories of how bad things were less than 3 years ago when Conte ruined us, fell out with people. Before that, Mourinho ruined Dele Alli, fell out with other players. And I don't understand why people don't grasp what Ange is trying to do. Create a new mentality, make us a more pleasurable team to watch. And I think he's on the right track. This is the bumps in the road he spoke about. These losses, as miserable as they all are just part of we've got to go through to get to where we need to get to. And I still think with most likely 16 games still to go, this season is very savable. If we win a trophy, for me, it's the best season we've had since 2006, or 2008, whenever it was, we won the Caribou. So I'm still very much Ange in. I love the guy. I know you probably think, but why? What is there to like? He's grumpy and he's this and he's that. I think he's very misunderstood. I think he's trying to do the right thing. It drives me mad when I see Pedro Porro running up the right-hand side of the pitch and there's no cover and we look like we've got a whole field left open and teams have exploited that on many occasions and it doesn't seem to be being addressed. We've addressed the problem we had from corner kicks. That's now died right down because since Vicario's come back in, he's been amazing. On Sunday against Bournemouth, when Romero almost gave away a goal after 15 seconds, I think that was as low as we could have gone. And then from there, we clawed back a 2-0 defeat, as it would have been, and drew 2-2. Yes, we were lucky. Yes, they missed chances at the other end. Bournemouth hit the post, as did we. And people saying, well, Areola should be our new manager. Well, yeah, he's a guy who went away from home as 2-0 up and didn't win. Perfect for us. Great. Stick with Ange. What's the point of changing managers every 18 months? It makes no sense. He's building something very strong for the future. Look at the average age of our players. 22, 23. Archie Gray will be in the England squad next week. You've got Bergvall, who's going to be in whatever squad he's going to be in, Sweden. People are saying here, I can see that, Conte ruined us. Yes, he did. He played for a 0-0 draw at home against Milan when we needed a goal. He took off a forward and brought on Sissoko or someone. I can't remember who it was. But it was a negative move.
I don't think ruined us. It's a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Okay, he got us top 4. Okay, I'll give him that. He did get us into the Champions League. But what was the point? We weren't ready for the Champions League. We probably won't be ready for it next season. Even if we win the Europa, we're still in development. This is that painful rebuild. And it's just, madness to want to replace. If you be careful what you wish for, we could end up with Gareth Southgate as our manager. Because he'll look good having a Knight of the Realm as your manager. Great. I don't see the point of getting rid of Postecoglou.
Okay.
End of rant.
Look, man, yeah, your view is right on the other side, man. Like, yeah. I've not heard anybody speak about Spurs this season like you.
Well, that's because I'm always positive. My glass is half full, not half empty. And it drives me mad when people are booing at half time. What good does that do the team? They need our support. Tomorrow night especially, they need our support. There's none. I mean, on Sunday, I must say, I didn't hear any Levy out, Enoch out chanting going on during the game, which was nice not to hear that. But I still think the fans have to just be a little bit more positive and not so negative, because that negativity rubs off on the players. I know they say, well, give us something to cheer about. That's the bargain, the deal. You've got to, meet your end of the bargain and give us something to get behind. Well, I think tomorrow night they will.
Anybody want to come back on anything what Paul has said? Luke?
Lots of people.
No, I kind of do agree. Obviously, there's certain points that I don't necessarily agree with, but I do agree on the whole in terms of. I think Ange is. I've seen in the chat some people saying that Ange Ball's been terrible and things like that, and that Conte played much better football. It's just crazy. I mean, I watch every single game. If I've got family at home, no matter what's going on, our weekends are planned around me watching Spurs. And towards the end of Conte, I didn't even bother. I didn't even know when we were playing. It was the worst football I've ever seen. Under Nuno, when we had Nuno, the first 5 games that we won, every single Spurs fan was saying, "Oh, we've got so lucky with them wins." And then the 5 losses came, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we deserved that the first 5." So to say that he's played the worst football, I think recently the football's been bad when he's been decimated with the injuries. It's getting to the 60th minute and players can't run, they can't do anything. But if you go back, I think people got very, very short memories. I've seen so many people recently saying things like Ange offers absolutely nothing, and it's like we're the second top scorers in the league, and so I don't quite get it. I mean, for me, I try to be balanced in opinions, and I feel like not everybody. Obviously, there's different people with different views, but some of the views, it's like every single thing that happens is all on Ange, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. As I say, I went through and started listening to some streams recently, and all I keep hearing of is that we should get Areola in. And I started to look back and look at some of their games and fixtures and things. They've been beat by Leicester this year. They've had injuries upon injuries this year. They haven't had Europe. They got knocked out of, I think, the FA Cup very early. Or if it weren't the FA Cup, it was the Carabao Cup very early. So they've literally had a Premier League season with a couple more games, and they're getting decimated with injuries. So how Areola is the answer is absolutely baffling to me. And I'm not saying he's not a good coach, and I watched him and I think he does play good football. But it's like, it's just a shiny new toy. And I don't think there's much substance to a lot of the answers that are put forward as an alternative to Ange. And the other one is Frank. We should get rid of Ange and we should get Frank in. The record for Ange against Frank is 3 wins and 1 draw. And this is a guy who's got a settled team. He plays defensive football. He's very pragmatic. He'll get us solid at the back, from what I've heard, even though we have a better defensive record than Brentford this year. There's a lot of, and I think that this is with everything. I see it with players. I see, why have we signed Odegaard? He's signing from a relegated team, absolutely useless. We should sign Tyler Diblin next year. So he plays for Southampton, who are about to get relegated. Virgil van Dijk played for Southampton. Robertson, he played for Hull. It's like, you can't have, if you've got one view, you have to have that across everything. You can't just have, oh, it doesn't fit with me on this occasion, but that suits my argument next. So I think it's really, really difficult for me to kind of get round and understand some of the arguments that are being put forward. And then I think to top that all off, I mean, last year we finished 5th and we sold Kane. Now, I wasn't in the streaming world back when we had Kane and Son running around and digging us out of holes, but everyone that I spoke to said if we lost Kane, we'd be a mid-table team. We've sold Kane, and we're a mid-table team. So this isn't something that we kind of didn't all foresee anyway. I mean, we've got no absolute world superstars, and I think again when we go back to the Conte, when we go back to the Mourinho, and we say that they were the saviours, they also had a prime Kane and Son. And if this team had a prime Kane and Son, we would be far, far up the table. So, but again, there is balance. I understand some of the arguments, and I completely agree with Jose, what you were saying earlier, in terms of there is. I'm not sitting here for 1 second saying Ange's got every single thing right, but he hasn't got as much wrong as people. The one that's really starting to become a gripe of mine at this moment in time is this Jed Spence. Jed Spence is currently playing the best football of his career, and yet Ange's mismanaged him. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you go through Jed Spence's career, and there was some controversy at the start, which is probably not on him, but we'll leave that. He signed for Spurs. Conte didn't want him. He goes on loan to Leeds.
It was a club signing.
Yeah, he goes on loan to Leeds. I'm not sure whether people know, but Archie Gray was the one that displaced him at Leeds as the right back. He then went on loan to Rennes, I think it was, in the French league. And as soon as their captain come back, he got displaced. He then went on loan to Genoa. They had an £8.5 million buyout clause on him. They spent 35 million that summer, and they didn't choose to buy Spence. And it's like, he's not been fancied by so many managers. Now he is fancied by Ange, and somehow Ange is it just doesn't. Some of the arguments I just find absolutely baffling. And when they're broken down, and this is the perfect arena to kind of do that. When they're broken down, instead of just having like a dismissive attitude and saying that's not true, when you actually look at it, that is how things work. Some managers fancy some managers fancy others. If you actually look at what Ange said about Jed Spence, he's literally come out and said that everything is on him. It's not on Ange. Ange hasn't turned him into this player. This is just Jed Spence working hard, something clicking to say, I need to do this, and I need to do this every day in training. I need to do it every day in matches. Something's clicked. And again, a lot of the hate about Jed Spence, I mean, Jed Spence seems awfully happy because he's come out and defended him several times. He was the first one to come over when Andrew was getting loads of stick in the away game. And he was actually asked about that, and he said, we're a team, we're together. So, I mean, if the player you've got a lot of gripes about the manager, about the way he's handled the player, and that player himself is quite happy, I think it says quite a lot, to be honest with you. I could go on all day, but I'll hand it over to other people.
It's fine.
Well,
enough, man.
So,
Can I have a go now? Let's have a little. Let's mix it up a bit. Now, why are you, obviously, Luke, Paul? You can't be happy where we are in the league, right? Surely.
Of course, no one wants to be 13th, 14th, or one place above Man United. In an ideal world, we'd be in the top 6 at least. But when you take into account the injuries, and that's not an excuse, we have been unlucky. This is the unluckiest time I've ever seen in one season for injuries. As one player comes back, another one gets injured, or two get injured, or someone gets sent off, or whatever. It's just never been until tomorrow night when I think we will see our proper first 11. I think that will be the first time this season they've all been on the pitch at the same time. There'll be 7 changes from the last time we played AZ at home, and we had Fraser Forster in goal. We had Ben Davis on the pitch. We had 5 others on top of that who started that game, and we won 1-0 because Maddison let Richarlison take the penalty. You know, we're going to be okay tomorrow. All these people that, I saw someone today, they say, God forbid we win tomorrow, and God forbid we win the Europa League Cup, because that means he'll be staying. I mean, what an attitude. How can that be a Spurs fan to say that? Don't you want your team to succeed? And they will, but they won't succeed by changing the manager every 5 minutes. That's what I think.
So we finished 5th last season, and now we're, 13th?
Mm-hmm.
On course for like 19, 20 defeats in the league.
Oh, there'll be at least 20, yeah, because we're going to lose a few games between now and the end.
So that would be our worst defeat since 2003, possibly 1991. It's a pretty bad season. It's
meaningless.
Pretty bad, eh?
It's meaningless if we win a trophy. It really is meaningless.
Yeah, but I don't think we will.
Okay.
What gives you confidence, Paul, that we will win that trophy?
Because I think we are going to get through tomorrow. Then I think we're going to get through the following round. Then I think we'll get through the semi-final because we're very good over 2 legs. And then I think we'll win the final, or we'll get to the final. I'm not saying we're going to win the final, but we will get to the final, where we should probably win the final. We're the favourites with the bookies for a reason. When you consider Man United really should be the favourites, or Lazio, or whoever should be the favourites, but we are the favourites. And the bookies don't get it wrong very often. I know we're an English team, so that makes the price shorter, but I think we have got every chance by concentrating on that tournament and forgetting about the league, as we have plainly done. We are going to be okay, and we are going to. I know it's risky.
So what if we don't, Paul? If we don't win the Europa, how do you feel then?
The Europa, I'll be very upset and very sad, but I can see green shoots of recovery in the long term, judging by the players we've got coming through, and the young players that have been the best of the players we've had recently. So your Greys and your Bergvals and your Jed Spences. We all know that Jed Spence had an attitude problem. It's well documented. Somehow, Postecoglou, almost said Pochettino, somehow Postecoglou has made him grow up. And look at the result. He'll be in the England squad as well next week or Friday when they announce it. And that'll be fantastic. You know, we're developing.
So he's turned him into a left back, isn't he? He's turned him into a left back, right?
He's a left back or a right back. But look, he's turned Archie Gray into 5 different positions. So he's the new Gary Mabbott. Talking of which, people that say he just stands there on the touchline with his hands in his pockets. I spoke to a Tottenham legend very recently who said, when I was a player at this club, if the manager stood on the side, if he was waving his arms and shouting and screaming, we didn't hear him and we didn't listen. If you're not prepared as players to go onto that pitch and do what you've been told to do and trained to do, and you're not ready, and you need your manager running up and down the touchline like Conte used to do, forget it. It's not necessary. It's theatre. It's managers with egos who would love to be the centre of attention. You saw that with the 2 previous guys we had.
Let's run it back a bit, Paul, because you kind of skipped over the question. Say if we don't win the Europa and we end up finishing 16th, 13th, is that good enough?
No, of course it isn't.
And who's to blame?
Again, as what was said earlier, Jose said it. There are so many different factors that go into the pie to make what has been what some would call a disastrous season.
So you don't put anything on Ange at all then on this?
Well, of course, yes, of course. He's been very naive, but he's stubborn. We know that. He won't change things when he should.
So are most good managers. Are most good managers. They're stubborn.
Yeah, but Ange has what he thinks is the way it should be played, and nothing's going to change him. You know, he's going to just die on that hill if we don't win that Europa League, obviously. And then he won't be here next season because finishing 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th and not winning a trophy is not good enough. I agree. But I do have some sympathy for him. But I don't tell me that we're not going to win it because I've got my Airbnb booked. I've got my flight booked. You know, and I've got money on it.
I hope he's right.
Luke, what do you reckon, man? What I said.
So in terms of if we don't win, I've never said that this is a great season, and this is one of the things I think Anjin and Anjat, there's a lot of everyone seems to think that you've got to have a completely contrasting opinion. I don't think that's the case at all. I think we all know that this season again, next season is not acceptable. We all know that if in injuries to the extent that they have been happens again, then it will be looked upon more on him, and he'll have to take more and more responsibility if the same mistakes are being made. But I think that the Anjin lot can see actually the other side of it and see the positive side of it. So I've seen a couple of comments mention about the fact that he's left that Jed Spence left that the Europa League squad. I think that highlights 2 things. I think one, it highlights the fact that we have such a poorly mismanaged team at this moment in time that we only have 2 homegrown players to put in. If we had the other 2, Jed Spence would have probably had a space in that squad. And then the second thing is that it's very easy to say after the fact, but actually when Vicario got injured, everyone said what a masterstroke it was that Forster was selected. because if he wasn't selected, it would have been Austin to start, and Austin hadn't played a game for Spurs. So now fans would be like, "Oh, Austin looks good," but they weren't going to say that at the start of the season. So again, it's in a lot of this is in hindsight. There's so many comments about Ange wanting to sell Spence and this, that, and the other. But the facts are is that everybody wanted to sell Spence because he was given a buy option on a loan. So nobody thought he was good enough, including the club that we loaned him to. They didn't think he was good enough. So something's clicked. And as I said before, if the player himself is coming out and backing the manager, then I'm going to take it over someone's opinion who's got an opinion on someone. So it was, that's just a bit of it's just a crazy one for me. And also the other thing I think I keep hearing is that everything's an excuse. Or Anjin, everyone, it's an excuse for everything. There's very distinct definitions between reasons and excuses. If I got in the ring with a world heavyweight champion boxer and he beat me up, it's not an excuse that I didn't win. It's a reason. He's a heavyweight boxer. Do you know what I mean? So and when there's reasons for things, so when you're playing the same players for 12, you've got a squad of 12 and you're playing them every 3 days, and then there's injuries from that. There's a reason. There's a reason that we got them injuries. It's not. This is
a bit of a freak with the injuries, though, isn't it?
It's not.
We've never had this amount of injuries. I can remember in a season.
No, but I actually posted on Twitter today. When you get an injury, there's several different factors to that. So one of them is how many games you play. Play a lot more this year than there's ever been, because again, people forget that actually with the Europa League, you have 2 more just in your group stage.
Just 2 more, yeah.
Yeah, just 2 more, but that's an extra 2. It's an extra 2, and it's also more travelling. Yeah, there's more international games. Games are going on longer because there's VAR.
But Luke, why is there injuries? Why is there so many? I know you say there's extra games, but all the other clubs have got extra games. And why is it but not as many as Spurs.
Yeah, but that comes. Arsenal didn't get any injuries last year, and they got loads this year.
I'm a bit concerned about it. Why is there so many? Is it down to Ange's training? Do you guys believe that is?
Does he take a set of responsibility? Does he have to take a certain bit of responsibility?
Don't agree with that?
I think he does.
No, because a lot of the injuries. Go on, Luke.
No, sorry, I'm just
let Luke finish.
He has to take some responsibility. Of course he does, but he can't take responsibility for Vicario going over and breaking his ankle and then playing on for half a game.
Correct.
He can't take responsibility for Romero being passed medically fine to play, turning and pulling a completely different muscle in a different leg. This is you again. It's an attitude of, oh, it's gone wrong. It's Ange's fault. I guarantee what I see quite a lot is people put up their preferred teams. They put up their preferred teams, and this is what I prefer. And then Ange will play that team, and we'll lose, and they'll go, "Oh, he's clueless. He should never have played that team." So hang on a minute. There's got to be a bit of balance. All I heard about the Bournemouth game, everyone told me that we should be sacking Ange and getting Areola in. That Bournemouth were a better team, and no one cared about the league because it was all about Europa League. So we've played Bournemouth. They've gone 2-0 up. We've salvaged a draw, which some would say if that was the other way around, Ange would be told he should be getting out because you're 2-0 up. You should never be surrendering that lead. And we get a draw against an informed team, and it's
who had a week's rest.
Yeah,
they had a week's rest.
We got outplayed against Bournemouth, guys. Come on, we were lucky. I'm not saying we were lucky. Bournemouth were a good side. They're a good side this season. The league shows it. They're a good side. They're well coached.
I agree. They're a good side.
They're better coached than us, I think.
So are we in agreement that we're at our worst at the moment?
We've been our worst all season. We haven't played well all season.
And
really, other than about 4 or 5 games, we've played well. The rest of them, we've not played well. We haven't put in, consistent performances. We've never looked solid, so open. Anybody can beat us on our day.
Dan, you say that, but only last month, Postecoglou was one of the nominees for Manager of the Month because we currently have the 4th best record over the last 5 games in the whole Premier League. We've won 3, drawn 1. You know?
We have not played well this season, Luke. We have not played well. We haven't performed really well. Even before the injuries. Before the injuries, we were very, very inconsistent, weren't we?
Yeah, 100%.
The end of last season, we were very, very inconsistent. We were losing a lot of games.
After 11 games, we were 3 points off third.
But we were winning one week, losing the next, weren't we?
Yeah, but it's
very inconsistent.
I completely agree with you. We were inconsistent, but it's almost like facts work for certain arguments, but then they don't work for other ones. There has to be a kind of understanding here that we didn't hit top form. We hadn't hit top form after 11 games. We're 3 points off third, and then
we are about to hit top form.
There's nothing to suggest, Paul. There's no evidence to suggest we're going to hit top form. Where's that made up from?
It's made up from the fact
that we had them the other day. We were rubbish. We were rubbish against Bournemouth. We had a lot of our players back then.
Rusty.
Oh, come on. We're at home.
Wait till tomorrow night.
Come on. We should be.
Wait.
I don't have that, Paul.
We aren't going to beat everyone. I don't understand this entitlement that people think we should win every game. I mean, it's a very
just
tough
play
league.
Well would help, Paul, wouldn't it? Just play well. We haven't played well. When is the last time we played well? When?
I've seen us play well in patches. I haven't seen us play well at home. Saying that, we beat Liverpool 1-0, and only 4 teams have done that this season.
And then what happened? They smashed us, embarrassed us.
I've seen us play well at home against Man City in the Caribou. I've seen us play well at home, but I've seen us play well in the Europa at home.
What game?
In that last game where we won 3-0 against Elfsborg, Sonny was like turned the clock back 10 years. We won 3-0.
Oh, you're really reaching.
Yeah, okay, it's only Elfsborg, but so what? If we was as crap as you say we are, we wouldn't have won that game 3-0.
Yeah, but we should be beating Elfsborg, man.
That's the level of the Europa League. You can only beat what's in front of you, and we did.
Luke made a comment. We're going to have
tougher games, obviously, as we get through them.
Sorry, going back to something that Luke said, and then Paul, you said as well. You said Angie's naive, right? You did say that, right, Paul?
Yes.
Angie's naive. Yeah,
I did.
Now,
because of his stubbornness, he's naive.
And then Luke said about the excuses. The excuses. Now, Ange never looks at himself and says, I could have done better. He always just points to everything else other than himself. I don't think he's learning.
He's said several times in interviews that we have to review things.
He said he's been going about the injuries, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Yes,
he's been going on pointing towards injuries.
That it needs to be reviewed and things like that. So he's adopting blame on, and if you notice, he never actually says he's done this or he's done that. It's always us. It's always us as a group of people.
It's a collective.
Single. So when he says we will review it as the manager, he will be part of that review process.
Let's talk about these green shoots, Paul. I'd like to hear more about these green shoots.
So before you do, Dan, can I just say the thing that frustrates the hell out of me as well, Paul, Luke, Dan, and people in the chat, is last week. So when we lost against AZ out my 1-0, right, away from home, there was an interview done with Sonny after the game. And Sonny said, no, look, I've got to say this. Sonny turned around and said, this just ain't got good enough. We're not playing our, how we should play. We didn't put performance in that we're meant to, and we have to go away and learn from this. Now that's his interview. Angie's interview after the game was along the lines of he did talk about the pitch, not to an alarming amount that everyone's kicking off, but he did talk about the pitch. But then he also said we didn't do what we were meant to do. We didn't come out, and we were misfiring. We weren't gelling as a team. But right, the only frustration I've got from last Thursday is that I could have copied and pasted both of them interviews, and throughout the season, I've heard the same interview from Sonny, and I've heard the same words come from Ange, and this has been all throughout the season. It's as if, and I do understand someone like Amarin, someone hammering it. Pep's done it. There's loads of managers that have done it. They've got a belief in the way of playing football, and they're going to do it that way. I understand that, but it's coming out and saying the same thing over and over again, and it's as if I could have quite easily recorded them at that stage and gone back and listened to other interviews as well, and they would have been exactly the same from both the players, and that was frustrating. Maybe it might be an idea for Tottenham, although broadcasters are going to pick and choose who they want to speak to, but it might be an idea to try and stick some other Tottenham players out there to do interviews rather than, Sonny saying the same thing over and over again, because it doesn't bode well for fans if you're going to listen to your captain saying the same thing. It's as if the captain's saying the same thing over and over again. Does that mean that we're actually not learning? So for me, that was a frustration I had on Thursday night when I heard them, both of their interviews. It's just a frustration. It's just a frustration I had.
Quickly before Luke or Paul comes in. Sorry, go on, Paul. Go for it.
I was just going to say, I don't think Sonny will be captain next season. So it will be Romero if he stays, or it will be Van der Ven or Vicario.
What was the comment, Jose? Remind me the comment Son made again. It was
the performance wasn't good enough. From the team, and we need to go away and we need to do something about it and be better. But he
has a reality check as well, didn't he? Say something like a reality check or something along them lines.
But the thing is, if you go back to interviews that he's done previously this season, more often than not, guys, it's been when we've lost a game as well. But instead of, and as I said, I do understand broadcasters picking on Sonny and wanting Sonny because Sonny's global, so you want to get Sonny out there. You get an interview with Sonny, it's going to go worldwide. Do you know? It's going to go worldwide if you bring up if you get Sonny out there. But I'm just thinking, for PR issues, it might be better just to get other players out there because he's saying the same thing in every interview over and over again. Admittedly, it's after we've lost. And then Ange as well. About how many times can we say we never came out the traps? How many times can we say that? And we got caught cold. How many times can we keep saying that? And as I said earlier, I'm not blaming one area of the club here because, as I said at the start of the show, I've got a belief that, Ange is at fault for some of it, but I also think some of our players are not deserving of wearing our kit, honestly, because I just don't know what they do. It's as if they're all passing ships in the night. And, you wouldn't have thought that these guys train together and see each other every day because when they come out on the pitch, they're never ready. We get caught cold more often than not, But this could be down to coaching. It could be down to a load of things. Sorry, Paul, go on, man.
I blame the huddle, the pre-game huddle, because before that we were fine. Now they do this bloody huddle like we used to do in the old days, where they get together before the game. God knows what they're discussing, probably where they're going out that evening, and we start off so slowly. It's just ridiculous.
Paul, are you saying the huddle is the reason why we didn't perform?
I'm saying the huddle doesn't do us any good because I don't know what they're all thinking when we kick off and we almost go a goal down. And it's happened away recently. It's happened last Thursday. It happened against Villa in the Cup, I think. It's happened so many times. We've conceded very early on. And we, at home in the league, have not scored a goal in the second half for over 4 months in a game and won it. We've drawn a couple like we did on Sunday.
Who's to blame?
I don't know. I don't know why we haven't scored.
Do you think it's Ange's tactics, or do you think it's a system?
It could be the substitution. I think his substitutions on Sunday were very good.
Paul, anything about the system or the tactics? No.
The system is still a work in progress, as we all know. And you just have to be patient. I know we've been patient for 20-something years or whatever. We just need to be a little bit more patient. 33 years since we won the FA Cup.
Let me ask Luke this question.
I don't know how old Luke is. Sorry, I don't know how old Luke is, right? But Luke's younger than the
He's less than 33.
Right? He's younger than the
you've got it bang on. You've got it bang on.
But what I will turn around and say, though, guys, is that for me, old school football, and I'm going back a fair few years now, when you saw each other in the tunnel, you gave each other daggers. You gave each other stares. You wanted to have a ruck in the tunnel already before you came out to play the game. And nowadays, they're all still hugging, kissing each other, shaking hands, having jokes with their opponents. And this is in the tunnel. So forget before you get out on the pitch, football has changed completely.
It's very different.
But that's every team.
Yeah,
That's every team, though. That's every team. It's not just Tottenham. In general, football has changed. Is it for the better? Is it for the worse? We've all got our own opinions.
Luke, what's your opinion on that? Tactics, like Paul's putting it down to the huddle while we're not performing. I think it's more to do with the tactics and the system.
So
Luke, what do you think?
In terms, as I said earlier, we're the second top scorers in the league. So to say that the tactics don't let us score goals doesn't make sense, because the fact
No, it's the performance and the result. Look at AZ, for example. AZ, that performance away from home last week, we didn't offer anything in performance levels.
What Paul mentioned was that we hadn't scored a second half goal. So it's not the tactics that are the problem in terms of scoring, because we've scored the second most goals in the league. So the reason why we don't score in the second half is because we was playing back to back the same game, same players every 3 days. So when it got to the 50th minute, you could physically see.
Is the AZ game you're talking about? Are we talking about the AZ game here? Or are we talking about other games?
When Paul mentioned that we hadn't scored a home goal or a second half goal in 4 months, that was during the period where we had no players. The AZ game was horrendous. There was
why when we had all those options off the bench.
There's a multitude of reasons, but when your captain comes out and in a interview afterwards says this is a wake up call when we're 13th, sometimes don't even worry about what the tactics are. Worry about, as a squad, how many more wake up calls do you need to go out there and put in a shift and try hard.
This team's played together under Ange now. This is his second season. How many months has he been here now? 20 months roughly. Yeah. How can the system doesn't look like it's working at all? Even when you've got like a lot of your players back, you're playing AZ. AZ are not a top side, are they? They're 6th in the Dutch league. Yeah. Player to player, we're much better than them.
Yeah.
Why do we look so poor in that game?
I think we've got a lot of hit and miss players. I don't think that helps. I think we've got a lot of players that some games will deliver 5s and then other games will deliver 8s and 9s. And you can have off days. Unfortunately, that is one of the things. But what scares the most?
Too many off days.
No,
too many off days.
100,000,000%. I completely agree with that. Too many off days. But what I'm saying is, in that game, we had 8 days rest, and players are not running like they should be. That they didn't play I keep hearing about it's Ange ball. We haven't played Ange ball for 3 months because we haven't had the players to do it. We've had injuries, meaning that we ain't able to throw people forward. The recent one is the Pedro Porro thing. Pedro Porro's out of position. Pedro Porro gave the ball away when he had safe possession. That's why he was out of possession. He was out of position, and that's why no one was covering him. You're not, when you're a top team. When someone has the ball, you don't expect them to lose it when you've got safe possession. It should be quite an easy pass for Porro to play. So people will naturally get into attacking positions. They'll try to see where they can create danger. Pedro Porro gives the ball away and they break. That's from poor play in terms of being on the ball. And what I find, there seems to be a lot of Spence.
You don't rate Porro? You don't think he's a good player?
No, I don't. It's not. I don't think he's a good player. I think he's a wing back that's playing as a right back. I think
he's also very young.
I think he needs to be a little bit better. I think he's played quite a lot. I think that doesn't come into it. And also, he hasn't got his right centre back in Romero. He's been playing. He's had Danso. He's had Gray. He's had Dragishin. That doesn't help with cohesion and things like that. But and as I was saying, there's a lot of love in the chat for Spence, which I completely agree. I think he should be starting every game. But when we played Bournemouth, he was out of position for the 2 goals. He got done for both the goals, and he also got done when they had their unbelievable goal when it was offside. So I didn't see any of the hate for Spence. That wasn't a problem then. But there was loads of problems for Porro being out of position. So again, it's like, we've got who we dislike, and no matter what goes on, we'll just focus.
There's an agenda. Yeah.
So I'm still trying to get to grips with you guys about where it's gone wrong this season. So it doesn't sound like you're putting much on Ange. It's more the players, it's the injuries, it's the, what I'm trying to get to grips, because I just don't think it's acceptable. 13th in the league. How many defeats? What's it? 14 defeats.
18 in all.
Out of both of the domestic cups. We don't look like we have an idea on the football pitch what we're doing right now. You look at the AZ game, the game against Bournemouth. That you can name so many games throughout the season where we haven't performed. It doesn't look like we have a system. We're so naive. We're so open at the back. So easy to score against. And I get that. Ange is not. Ange, look, it's about results, right? Football's about results at the end of the day, isn't it? You've got to get results. If you haven't got your players, then you adjust your system to work with what you got to get results. And Ange has not done that.
No.
Has he? He hasn't done that. When he had that awful injury period, he should have changed up the tactics and maybe played on the counter, because there's been games this season where we've done really well on the counter. Against
Brentford
City,
away,
for example.
and Brentford away
So
recently.
I that's why I kind of put, yes, the injuries is going to impact performances, of course, but I feel Ange could have done so much more, and he's just stuck to the same system, knowing that he hasn't got the players to do it, knowing that it hasn't really worked since last season, the system. I just don't get it.
I don't think you
guys help me.
It's definitely worked in games. It's worked in isolation. Everyone talks about City away. Okay. Everyone says that they were in bad form. If you actually look at it, we started the bad form. The bad form started when we beat them, and then a couple of games.
No, it wasn't, Luke. They were on a run of 4 or 5 defeats before they faced us.
No, the first
time we beat them, we were the first.
We started their run game.
No, I'm talking about the first one. I thought you were talking about the 4-0. Do you know the 4-0 when we smashed them?
When we smashed them, that was the first defeat, and then they went on a losing run. We started that losing game with a 4-0.
Yeah,
we topped and tailed it.
So there has definitely been, and again, this is what I'm saying. There has definitely been games where we have not been very good, but there's also been games that we have been very good. And in the games that we've been very good, the football's been absolutely incredible. I see a couple.
And what
of
games are they, Luke? Recently. Could you name us the games? Just remind me.
I can.
Man United, Man City.
Man United are rubbish this season.
But we can't. That's the thing. If we turn around and just said that, they're rubbish, that don't count. We could also do that.
Well, we have to look at it. Man United are not a good side. I'll give you City. City are a good side. Yeah.
Okay. Aston Villa.
A good performance.
Aston Villa.
If we beat
Aston Villa, good result. That was a good performance.
If we won every single game against the teams we're better than, we'd probably end up winning the league, because that's not how football works. Bournemouth,
it's all well and good beating City, but then you can't even beat Ipswich at home. You go to Palace, you can't win.
Spurs have done that for 10 or 15 years. Spurs have always
you can't even beat Leicester
and deliver a good win.
Yeah, but this is normally we beat most of the teams lower than us. I think normally, if you look back at previous managers, we've beaten. We've normally beaten a lower team. Yes, we get the odd defeat, but this season we've lost so many games. We used to struggle against the top sides, but we normally beat the teams below us or mid-table, right? We never had a problem with that. Yes, we get the odd defeat, of course. You can't win every game. And we struggled against the top teams.
If we lose at home to Southampton in our next home league game, your point will be valid. But until then, I don't think it is.
Why?
Because we are beating teams that we have a history of losing to, like Wolves. We normally lose to them at home. We drew this season. There are teams we've taken points from this season, we would normally not take points from. So it's very much swings and roundabouts. Leicester away, the first game of the season, 2-2. We were all over them. Was it 2-2 or 1-1? I think it was 2-2. We were all over them. And that's a game where a 2-2 where we didn't win. Much like we were lucky on Sunday, we were unlucky in that first game of the season. And there's been other draws this season where we've been unlucky not to win. And that's what it's. Football's a game on very slim margins. You can
okay. I get where you're coming from. Okay, so so what do you think, guys? So do you think Ange is going to be here in the summer? If we don't win the Europa, put that aside. We come 13th, 16th. Do you think Lee and will be here and Jose pitching as well, man? Because you ain't spoken much lately.
It's because you're asking the other two questions, because I think you've spoken to many a time before, but not these two. That's why you're asking them more questions.
Sorry, man. Get involved. Right. Get involved, man. Let me ask you that question. Then.
Right, for me, right. We're down. For me, right. We're damned if we do. We're damned if we don't. Now, where I sit on this is that, and I've already said at the start of the show, I feel there's a blame on Ange, there's a blame on players, coach. I've explained every area where I think there's blame, and I think that we have to do. There has to be a biopsy in the summer to find out why things have gone so wrong in different areas. The normal modus operandum for Tottenham Hotspur is Levy gets rid of the manager. That's the normal modus operandum. It's what he's done in all his tenure being here. Now, I don't know this time round what's happened, unless there is a path, there is a plan that they've got at board level, and that they've got an agreement with the manager that they want to do all these wholesale changes, but he has not fired the manager. So that goes against everything he's done in 20 odd years. But we haven't got it right in 20 odd years. So this time round, they're doing something differently. Now, for me, part of me says a lot depends on tomorrow night and how we do in Europe. A lot of it, part of me says that. But then part of me also says that there's no point getting rid of the manager now, so close to the end of the season, regardless of what goes on. And what you do is you make that decision at the end of the season. Fans, we're all going to have opinions on that. And the one thing that we haven't got, the four of us on screen and anyone in the chat, the one thing that we haven't got is a backstage pass to what happens at Tottenham Hotspur. So we don't know what the agreements are at board level. We don't know what the agreements are with the manager. We don't know what they're trying to do, because obviously, I mean, apart from listening to Mr. Ineos the other day, yesterday's talking about Man United, it's not quite often that the owners will come out and talk and tell you what the path is for the club and what they're going to do. And so obviously, as fans, we get frustrated because we don't know what's happening. We don't know why are you making this decision? What's the reasoning behind that? We don't get told that. So as fans, we all get frustrated. Now, for me, as I said, part of me tells me that tomorrow is a very, very important game for Ange and for Tottenham Hotspur this season. Mm-hmm. But even getting through tomorrow night is, in all honesty, it ain't enough just to get through tomorrow night. The only thing that will placate fans, I suppose, this season is if we go on and win that trophy. Mm-hmm. That will placate fans a certain way. However, if we went on to win the Europa, you still have to have the biopsy, because there's still problems at the club. It still needs sorting out. So win the trophy, you still have to go and find out why this has happened, why that's happened, and you still got to go through it all. But as I said, because we don't know what the game plan is and what they've agreed, it's like when you hire someone for a role, you hire someone and the contract's between you and your employer, and you can have bits in your contract that they're in there just for you, because not everyone's going to have the same contract. So, as I said, because we're not flies on the wall and we're not party to, we ain't got a backstage pass, we don't know what they've agreed at Tottenham Hotspur. So, part of me says that tomorrow's a very important night and it's important for him. Another part of me says that they'll probably look to do something. If they're going to do anything, they'll do it in the summer. But then I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes as well with the sale of the club as well. It's going on behind the scenes at the moment as well. So there's a lot going on at Tottenham.
I don't think we'll sell out to the Qataris as much as you do. So we'll wait and see.
I think one thing, I think you're completely right in terms of in the summer. I think things need to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, when you're getting the amount of re-injuries, as I said before, for 10 years, we've been terrible from a medical standpoint. I know that people mentioned quite a lot about the amount of money that Ange's apparently spent since he came in. A lot of them fees include people like Porro, Kulusevski, so players that were already at the club. So them fees are nothing to do with Ange. They was already part of it. But when you look at last year, I think we spent something like 150 million, and we signed one player that was for the first team to start. That doesn't help. We need to be signing first team players. We need to be signing players that come in and improve the first team straight away. So it's a bit different. I mean, we've got from last year to this year, we've got a better squad. But our first 11, the only difference is Solanke. There's no other difference. There's no players that we've gone out and signed that would make the difference. So again, when you're looking at fees and everything else, a lot of that has to take into consideration that there's context behind everything. So I think we need to go at the start of the season. We need to sign players for the first team. We need to sign players that come in and improve us. I think we need a midfielder for sure. Definitely need a midfielder.
Luke, what about the question, man? Did you answer the question about? Do you think he's going to be here in the summer? I
think it depends on the Europa League. I think if he wins the Europa League,
okay.
I know there's some fans saying that even if he wins the Europa League, he needs to get sacked, and then the same fans today will then cry about loyalties here and loyalties there.
Just put that aside. We're probably not going to win the Europa League. Yeah, probably not.
So if we win the Europa League, he stays. If we don't win the Europa League, I think he stays until the end of the season. And I think it depends on the end. If the end of the season, if you go and lose 10 or whatever it is, then obviously he's gone. If he goes on a good run and wins 8 or 9, they might start thinking, well, hang on a minute, we can see something again. Yeah. So I think it's the pivotal thing is now in terms of what happens between now and the end of the season will decide it.
Okay. I think as well, though, like I said earlier, even if we win the Europa League, I still think the biopsy needs to happen. You still need to look. You still need to look at every, and that includes Ange as well. You still have to look at every area of the club where
Paul wants to say something as well. Sorry, Jose. Paul's gone to the jump in.
Sorry. I just want to say that the further we go in the Europa, and it will be all the way to the final, the more our league form is going to go down. Because
why? Why? That's an excuse.
Because he'll be resting the players for the more important games. We're not going to get
saying
relegated.
that we can't, but I don't like this. That the league doesn't matter. But you've got to play well. Look, Ange said, wait until I get my players back. Wait until I get my players back. That's what he's been saying, right? So now you've got your players back. Now start putting in some decent performances in the league as well. We can't just write off the league. I don't have this. Why should we write off the league? We've got to play. We've got games to play. Doesn't matter. We need to be. Haven't we got any pride? Haven't we got any pride to win games? Should we just give up? I don't have that. Paul. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying they'll give up, but I think they'll be mindful of the injuries that we've already incurred this season, and they will rest certain players who are game changers from some of those league games.
I get that.
We're not going to win away at
game,
Chelsea.
Yeah.
We're not going to win away at Liverpool. So what's the point of playing your strongest team when you've got a Europa Cup semi-final the following week? There's no point.
Okay. So we have to improve our if we're going to win this Europa League like you hope, Paul, we have to improve our performances on the pitch. How do we do that? By playing games in the league. Otherwise it can't just happen just in the Europa League. We're suddenly going to play well. We've got to build up some momentum and performances.
This is also true. I do agree. But I don't think there's any point playing your first 11 away at Liverpool 4 days before
I get that.
Europa League. Or Chelsea away 4 days before
I agree with you there. I agree
There's
with
other
you there.
games, of course, that we should win. Okay? And I'm looking forward to the last game of the season at home to Brighton when we'll be parading a trophy around the pitch before the kickoff. Just dream of that. And it is a dream, and it could come true.
Isn't the Europa final after the league finishes, though? I thought the two
May the 21st.
And when do we finish the league?
May the 25th.
Oh, all right, because normally the Europa and the Champions League are after the league's finished.
No, the Europa isn't. The Champions League still is.
But can I say, I'm gonna go all out and say, unlike other people, I don't rate our squad. And I said this earlier on in the season. I think that we have hyped up our players so much that we don't see the wood between the trees, because I think there's some players in our team that are really, really poor. And we this ain't the final squad, obviously, but in the summer, I think there are players there that have got to leave, have got to be sold by the club. But my fear is, again, what I was talking about earlier, when I've got Langer and Munn looking after that side of it, I'm not sure whether we're going to get the players out, because and then but getting players out, you need to bring players in to replace. And I'm not sure whether these two can either bring players in or get the players out. So for me, I don't think that I think we've as a fan base, we overhype the team that we've got. When people do teams like you're playing an opponent, how many of them are going to get into the Tottenham team? And when you look at it, you see the bias from some people that the majority, you get 9 players from Tottenham in the side and 2 from your opponents. And that's because we overhype the players too much. Look, I'm Spanish, right? And Pedro Porro does not get in as first choice right back for Spain. Pedro Porro is a wing back that's playing right back for Tottenham. And Spain don't play wing backs, so Porro doesn't often start as a starter. The weekend just gone against Bournemouth, through my Hispanic roots, the worst 3 players on the pitch for passing the ball on Sunday were Porro, Romero, and Bentancur. All Hispanic descent, and they were poor, in ball distribution on Sunday. I just think, I look at our midfielders, right, and I just think to myself, we need upgrades. We've got 6 midfielders to pick from, or 7 if you're going to include Archie Gray. 5 of them probably need upgrading on.
But Jose, don't you put this down to bad Ange's tactics and system? You're blaming all the players.
No. I think the players can play for anyone. I just don't think they're good enough. I really don't think they're good enough.
They come 5th last season. They come 5th last season.
Yeah, but you come 5th, and other teams dropped away and didn't do what they were meant to do. Now that they're doing what they're meant to do this season, they're higher than us.
Who's doing well this season? Who's doing well compared to last season?
Chelsea,
Forest, Brighton, Bournemouth.
Yeah, there's loads of teams that are doing much better than us.
Forest, Bournemouth, Brighton, they've got better squads than us. They haven't got better squads than us.
They haven't got European football.
Bournemouth. I know they haven't got European football. They still have had injuries.
Let me just say, right? People poo-poo Nottingham Forest. All right. Now they've got Chris Wood, who is banging in goals for fun, and the 3 that sit behind Chris Wood: Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, and Gibbs White. Them 3 players behind the striker have looked far better than anything we've got in midfield or anything that we've got that plays up.
Do you think they're better players, though? Do you think they got better players than us?
I look at their centre-halves. I look at Mario Milenkovic, and I think to myself, look at them play. I look at their fullbacks, Aina and Nico Williams. There's a way that they play, but these players look really good.
Because of their system, their manager and the system.
But to me, if I take out them players from Nottingham Forest and I put them into other teams, I think they thrive. You take our players out of our Tottenham Hotspur and put them into other teams, they don't thrive. You
put that Milenkovic-Savic in our high line, he'll get roasted. He ain't got the pace. He's suited to that Nuno system. Counter-attack.
Yeah, that comes down to the scouting, doesn't it? If you're saying that the players don't suit the system, that's coming down to the scouting again. Can
I just say, still, I ain't clutching, mate. I'm saying that I said at the start of this season, I didn't think that our squad was and our players were everything that a lot of the fan base were making out to be. And I think that with some of the players that we've got, if you put them in other teams, they sink. They sink at Tottenham, but they sink at other teams as well. It's systems or not. I just don't think there's some players there that are just good enough to play for Tottenham. I think to play for top 6 teams.
I think our squad is a 7th or 8th place team. That's what our squad is in terms of the quality of it.
But we finished 5th last year, Luke. We finished 5th last year.
Yeah, and I think that was. I don't think many managers would have got us into 5th the day before when we lose Kane on the eve of the Premier League season.
Correct.
We had no recognised striker.
So what's the drop off? What's the drop off?
Because last year he pulled a rabbit out of the hat. How we got 5th is unbelievable, really. And then this year we've got exactly what we was expecting. The fact that we have no world class players. We had a Harry Kane and a Son that was digging us out of a hole for years. And we don't have that anymore. There's no one.
We didn't have him last season, Luke. I don't understand what you're talking about. We didn't have him last season when we came 5th.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's pulled a rabbit out of a hat. How we finished 5th last year is if we're saying that everything now is on Postecoglou, then Postecoglou must be responsible for the reason we finished 5th last year. You can't. Again, this is what I'm saying. It has to be both ways. If it's all on him now, it has to be all on him last year. So when people are saying, "Oh, he's no good," well, he got us the 5th last year, so he must have been pretty decent to do that. I'm not saying that it was all on him last year, and that's what I'm saying. It's not all on him this year. There has to be some sort of balance to it.
But what's the improvements being made in the team? What's the improvements this season, Luke?
I think that he's put. I don't think the foundations have been laid for the younger players in terms of Berrival. You've got Gray, Moore's being slowly introduced into the team. So we've obviously got Telwyn, which could or could not go long term. We'll see. Spencer's now going to be involved in a first team in the Premier League.
So no improvements, basically, year. Luke. There's been none. Is that what you think? There's been no improvements.
I just named 5. You've got players. You've got 18, 17-year-olds, 19-year-olds that have got a year experience in the Premier.
But I'm talking about the current squad. Forget about the youngsters for a minute. Just about the team, what we have, the first team players. What improvements have they been in that team?
There's not been loads of improvements this year, but again, we're looking at it from an isolated situation in terms of we've had a bad run of form now, and what do we think about people right now? Like Brennan Johnson's got his best goal scoring season he's ever had.
Tap in, Merchant.
Kulusevski's
got his best apart from score goals?
Kulusevski's got his best goal scoring season, number season that he's ever had. We're the second top goal scorers in the league. They're all pretty positive when you look at it.
We scored.
And then you can also look at the negative side. It depends on what side you want to see it.
We've got 4 players who are going to score double-digit goals this season. So Maddison, Solanke, Son, Johnson. That's more than we've had before. We've already played the same number of games as we played last season, 41 games. That was what was good last season. He could rest players. We're going to be playing another 16.
Tottenham away have just put we got battered in the cups. We lost to Villa and we lost to Liverpool. We didn't go out to.
No,
everyone keeps talking about Tamworth.
Tried to go out to
Tamworth. We didn't go out to Tamworth. We went out to Villa and we went out to Liverpool. They're not. Yeah.
We're unlucky with those draws.
It's not embarrassing to go out to them sides. We shouldn't be going out to them sides. We should be able to put
together a long way in the
challenge. But
last season we went out in the first round of the Carabao. We already qualified this season to start in the round after that. So we already beaten last year's record for the Carabao by not playing in the first round, going into the second round because we had Europe. So we've done much better in the Carabao Cup season. Okay. Yes, we didn't go on to win it. I know it's no good winning 1-0 at home if you're going to lose 4-0 away. I do get all that.
So, Liverpool, Paul, do you want Ange here in the summer? Do you want him to have another shot at it next season?
Yes. Why not? This is his team. He's building. They got rid of 9 players at the end of last year at the summer. Didn't build the squad that he should have been given to start this season, knowing there was going to be another 16 games more than last season. He was left with a very bad hand in terms of what he was given, in terms of what went out. Looking back now, people are saying we should have kept Holbier because he would have been a defensive addition that we could use. And there are players that went, then there are still players there now that shouldn't be there, like Werner. I mean, that I'll never understand. He should have been told where to go at the end of his first period of his loan. But, I think Ange needs to be given.
Do you think, Paul, say we get knocked out in Europa, right? Do you think Ange will be here in the summer? No. Do you say we get knocked out? If we get knocked out altogether, say we don't win the Europa, do you think Ange will be here in the summer?
I think if we get to the final, yes, he will be. And I think if we don't, no, he won't.
Even if he gets to the final, just say if he doesn't win it.
Yeah, I think he will be.
Quarters, semi, you think he will,
I think anyway, all the way up to the quarters, the semi, if we go out, I doubt he'll be here next season. But he didn't say, I win a trophy in my second season. He said, I've won a trophy in my second season everywhere I've been. And there's a big difference. He's being misquoted. But I still think he will win a trophy this season. And I'm positive, and I'm going to remain positive.
Say he doesn't. So you reckon that Levy will keep him, yeah? You think Levy will keep him if we don't win a trophy?
If we lose in the final,
15th in the league, You think he will not forget the final, just lose the whole thing. So he doesn't win it. He gets final, quarterfinal, semi-final. He doesn't win it. Do you think Levy will keep him in the summer?
Not if we don't get to the final. No.
Okay, so yours is pending the final. If he gets to the final, you think Levy will keep him?
Yes. That's 100% what I believe. And I don't see why you would want to not keep him. I really don't.
I don't know.
All these mitigating
Sorry, Paul. I don't agree. I don't.
That's great. That's what.
Yeah,
opinions are like assholes.
Yeah, they are. And this season has been the worst of memory. Yeah, I've been so miserable this season. Miserable. Yeah, all those defeats I can't see. Forgotten what?
You've forgotten that when Conte was there, people weren't going in to watch the game.
Yeah, but I'm not people. I was okay with Conte. You're talking about people. I was okay with Conte. We were
thousands of people.
We were going to go third. Yeah, that's fine. That's those people. But I'm talking about my opinion on it. When we had Conte, we were fourth. We could have gone third, and then Southampton got a late goal, and then Conte lost the plot and then he left. Right? We were fourth under Conte. People forget that. And look at the defence he had.
People that go on about Mourinho.
I don't think people forget
Mourinho was a manager who was in prison, taking a 2-0 lead.
That was poor. Yeah, that was a poor result. Yeah, it was.
I think the thing that people do forget about Conte is that we did lose 2-0 to Mora, and we did go out of the Europa Conference League when he was the manager. So, and then I hear people tell me that, well, actually, he didn't care about that competition, but he's a winner, and we ain't won nothing. So, everyone can sit there, and this was the same when Pochettino was in charge. I used to pull my ear out some of the stuff that he does. You're always going to do that. I mean, people think now that you're going to get a manager and everything that manager does is going to be exactly what you want and how you want it. That is not how it works. Life doesn't work like that. Football doesn't work like that. There's always going to be things where you think, I'm not sure about that. I don't really agree with that. I've heard recently, last couple of weeks, everyone keeps talking about Mikey Moore should be starting and he should be doing this. The last 2 Premier League games that Mikey Moore's played, he's been absolutely bullied. But I think he's going to be very good. And I think he should be getting minutes. I think he should be in and around the squad. But we're not talking about a physical man here. We're talking about a kid who, if he goes and starts getting involved in Premier League and starting, it doesn't work like that. Rooney, even though he was a fully grown adult at 17, he didn't start week in, week out when he was 17. So, and football's now far, far more energetic. It's more intense than what it was previously. So I think
let's have a conversation about the recruitment, guys. Let's have a conversation about the recruitment, right? I want your guys' opinion. Jose, I know you're not happy with the recruitment. You know, you've already said tonight, haven't you? And I've heard you say many a time. Now that forward line we have, I do think is bang average. Guys, Luke, Paul, or Jose, whoever.
I think that justifies more the fact that we've the second top goal scorers. You're saying they're bang average, and I completely agree with you. And yet we still got second top goal. So he must then be doing something right, because if he's got average players,
it doesn't matter, does it though? Because you're conceding the goals. It doesn't matter. You're 13th in the league. You've lost 14 games. You're out of the domestic cups. That's the evidence. The results. It all goes back to the results.
Yeah, of course it does. But what I'm saying is,
in my opinion, their forward line is average.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not saying I disagree. But what I'm trying to say is, all we keep hearing is that Ant is clueless. He's got no idea what he's doing. But you've just said that we've got an average forward line, and he's managed to get us the second top goal scorers. That's pretty decent for someone who knows absolutely nothing. And all these wrong.
That would be good if we were like nearer the top, you know, in the top 6, 4th, 5th, whatever. And we would second, that would mean something. But it's meaningless when you're 13th in the league.
But
we sold the best football centre forward in the world. Come on.
Yeah. So they should have gone on and brought. This is going to go on to the recruitment now. Let's have a conversation about the recruitment. Move away from Ange. Let's go on and talk about the recruitment. So, guys, if you think back to the summer, what did you? Yeah, start off with Paul. Paul, you go first. What did you think of that recruitment after the summer?
The summer just gone. So this season's squad, I wasn't over impressed. I can't, apart from Archie Gray, who's phenomenal, and Bergval, who's phenomenal. I can't think of much else. I mean, we've got 4 goalkeepers we've played this season. Apart from Vicario, I don't rate really any of the other 3. Kinksky is still Kinksky Boots is still very young. He's got a long way to go. Who else came in?
Solanke.
Yeah, I mean, Solanke doesn't get the credit sometimes because he is very good, holds the ball up, but he's not ruthless, and he's not Harry Kane, and no one is going to be Harry Kane. The same with Richarlison. I love Richarlison, but he's so injury prone. He's finished, as far as I'm concerned. He can go back to Watford, So I mean,
did you not rate that transfer window, Paul? Just your opinion on it.
I would have given it 6 out of 10 because we didn't get the number 6 we needed, and we could have got a better centre forward. I was hoping we were going to sign a better forward than Solanke, someone with more about them, who can actually do a lot more. But we didn't.
Okay.
In the January transfer window, I wish we'd gone out and got Rashford. I thought he might want to come and play in London
instead of Tell.
He's now doing. Well, Tell, I don't understand the Tell deal. I mean, he's again a kid. Scored 1 goal for Bayern Munich. He's scored 1 goal for us. I can't see where he's going to get his next goal from at the moment. But the goal he did score for us was against Villa in the cup, and it was a great goal. So the talent is probably there.
For me, Tell's a pointless signing. Pointless. I wanted to sign someone more experienced, ready to get into that team straight away and hit the ground running. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Jose, what's your opinion on the summer transfer window? I know it already, but do you want to just tell the guys, because you haven't spoken to Paul and Luke before?
I felt that we were 5 players light in the summer. I thought the squad was way too thin in the summer. So straight after the transfer window closed, I said it straight away. I think I said 4 to 5 players light. This is before we had any injuries. Still, 4 to 5 players light is what I thought we were. And also as well, I'll reiterate what I said before. Langer came to Tottenham, and Aston Villa didn't put him on gardening leave. Aston Villa let him go. Normally, for people like that in positions that high, as directors of football and whatever they are, they normally put him on gardening leave. You can't go and start. He was allowed to come to Tottenham straight away. And I think that the work that he did at Villa, we've suffered from it at Tottenham, where, it's mediocre, the players that you bring in, but it's tough to get the players out as well. And I think he finds it difficult. Scott Munn, we brought him to the club. I don't see what Scott Munn does on the footballing side at all. I don't see what Scott Munn does. And to me, I think that, them two are culpable for the transfers. And then this summer, if they're both still at the club, because as I said, this summer, I think we need to look at the whole club. There's every area of the club needs to be looked at. So like I said, the owner, the board, the Langer and Scott Munn need to be looked at. The medical team need to be looked at. The coaches, the manager, the players. We need to look at absolutely everything. And to me, I just think to myself, there's a certain Mr. Paratici that in 3 months' time, his worldwide ban ends. If I was at the club myself and I had a say in this, I would be saying, do what you can to bring that Italian back into our club and move Mr. Langer outwards. Because at the moment, it doesn't fit. You've got Paratici as a consultant, Langer's a full-time employee. So whatever you do, the club will side with a full-time employee over a contractor. We need to reverse that, and we need to bring him back to the club. I think we stand a better chance, and we might fare better in the market with someone like Paratici rather than Langer. But yeah, to me, Dan, I think it was awful last summer. I think that the board and with the recruitment team in the winter was also again poor because we were struggling for injuries and stuff like that. And we bought in Kinksky, the 3rd or 4th of January, and then your last 2 signings didn't come into right at the end. We needed players to be in at the start of the transfer window because we knew we had these problems going back to early October. We've had these problems. We knew the prognosis on players that they were going to be out for 3 months and whatever. So we knew we wouldn't have players. We knew they were all out injured. And I just think to myself, what do these people do in their spare time? Do they just only come alive on the 1st of January when it's too late? What did they do between the summer and the winter transfer window? Didn't they speak to agents? Didn't they speak to players? You know, the normal things that you would do in that position, these don't seem to have been done at Tottenham. So for me, yeah, it just needs for me, it's an overhaul again. Again, it's an overhaul for that as well. And like I said, I'm putting the blame on a lot of people here at the club because I think that a lot of areas are culpable here for this season.
Fair enough, man. Luke, yeah, that was good, Jose. Luke, what's your view on the summer transfer window?
I think I've already gone over it. We signed 1 player to improve the first team. People keep saying in the chat, Ange said he was happy with the transfers. He said he was happy with the players that were signed. He didn't say he was happy with everything. He said he wanted a centre-back. He said he wanted more experience, and he didn't get any of them. So he's not going to come out and say, I hate the player we've just signed, is he? That doesn't make any sense. We've signed a lot of young players, and he's talking about the future. He's talking about players that are going to come in the next couple of years and be an asset to the football club. He didn't say, we've signed Archie Gray, we never need to sign a centre midfielder or anything like that. As I say, he literally said in the interviews that he wanted another centre-back. He said, we need to get another one in. We didn't. He said he wanted more. He said, we need some more experience to help these young lads. We didn't get the experience. So people saying that he's been fully backed, people saying that he's approved every transfer, there's difference. If someone turns around and says you can sign this really, really high prospect, high potential 17-year-old, and we're also going to go and get a 25-year-old who's ready now, and you say, yeah, happy with that, that sounds good, and then you don't go and get that 25-year-old, then he's happy.
Why do you think, Luke, sorry, man, why do you think Ange didn't speak up to the board about, the lack of...
He said we need more experience when he was questioned in his pre-match conference.
This was after in the new year, right?
This was during January. Yeah, during January, he said we need to get.
He was reflecting back on the summer, weren't he? Yeah, is that what you mean?
I think he was talking about because we're going through an injury crisis. They were saying you're playing a lot of young players. You need to get some experience. So he said, we need to get some experience in to help the young players. And then in the summer, he was asked about whether he wanted another centre back, and he said yes. And then we didn't get it. And then I think it was brought up again in the transfer window because it was I think it was when we signed Danzo. They said, "Do you want another one?" And he mentioned or alluded to the fact he thought we would get another one in. Then you got the fouled Gay bid and everything else.
So what was your rating of it in the end, Luke? What did you rate that window? What out of 10?
I think long term it could be 7 or 8. I think we're saying.
But now, the here and now, we'll talk about this season and how it's impacted.
It can only be a 5. It can't be much higher than that because we signed 1 player. We signed 1 player to improve our first 11.
Okay. So let's have the Levy conversation now because obviously it's getting late. I don't know how long you guys have got left, so let's talk about the protests and and I want to know how you guys are feeling about the board and it's really building up now, this protest. There's another one on the 6th. Obviously big numbers on the one. Was it before the Man United game, right?
Yeah, but the big numbers. There were a reason for the big numbers. It was people walking down from Seven Sisters Station to the ground. I mean, if you want to include all those guys as part of the protest, all well and good, but it's a little bit sketchy.
So why are they protesting, Paul? In your opinion, why are they protesting?
The ones that are protesting because they've got nothing better to do. They just think that they're going to be heard, and they're not going to be heard. And
so do you think it's one trophy in 24 years is not a reason?
Well, there's a bloody good reason. Of course it is.
Yeah. So that's a bit unfair, isn't it, Paul? You're really taking a mick out of them. That's a bit unfair because they obviously it's
how
not
many
been
semi-finals have we lost in that 20 whatever years? We've lost 9 semi-finals. Okay, how many finals have we lost? 4 or 5.
We ain't got over the line. We ain't got over the line. It's semi-finals, semi-finals.
How can that be Enid's fault? How can that be Enid's fault?
Well, I can tell you why, because they haven't backed managers properly. They haven't backed managers properly.
Have you seen how much they've spent?
Yeah, but they haven't signed the right players. They haven't. The recruitment is all wrong.
That's not Enid's job to sign the right players. That's the people they employ, who obviously they've employed the wrong people to sign those players.
It all goes back to them, doesn't it? It all goes back to them. It all goes back to them. They hire the people to make those decisions.
Timing is everything, isn't it? You've got to remember when we were playing at Wembley and building the new stadium, we were really, really good. And that last season at White Hart Lane, we went 19 games in the league, undefeated.
Yeah.
And it was all fantastic. Yeah. And then such was the way of the world. We couldn't, when we should have spent the big money after the Champions League final, we didn't. And they ran out of patience with Pochettino. And then we had the pandemic. And that pandemic ruined everything in terms of turnover because there was no fans in the grounds. Okay. The football was played in soulless, empty stadiums. So the turnover went down. Okay. And in the meantime, they're paying all this money back to pay for this stadium, this bloody, brilliant, beautiful, brand new, shiny bauble, and build the training ground and do this and do that and buy half of the high street. And as a business, Inica are fantastic. And you have to say they've done a great job as a business. But I wouldn't go along with the people that are saying built a business and killed a football club, because they have not killed the football club. They are growing. If they were killing it, it wouldn't be worth 3.5 billion now from the whatever 20 million it cost them when they started.
Paul, do you think it's been good enough the last 24 years?
No,
Paul,
of course it hasn't. Of course it hasn't.
Who's to blame?
It's not just about. If it depends what your raison d'etre is. If you think all it is about winning trophies, fine. But to me, I'd rather see.
So you don't care about winning trophies, Paul?
Of course I care about
fine. That's how you feel. If that's how you feel,
I don't want to win. I don't want to watch a team that plays shit football who then go on to win a trophy when I could be watching a Postecoglou team that entertains me, whether they win or lose. Okay, so call me a loser.
That's your opinion. Yeah. That's what you want. That's what you want. Yeah. Yeah,
I
but don't you think it's a bit unfair, Paul, to belittle the fans who want to protest because they're unhappy? Because you are belittling them. You were. What did you say a minute ago? You said, "Oh, they're just wasting their time."
Well, they are wasting their time. They're not going to be able to change anything. What are they protesting about?
What do you mean? What they're protesting about? They're protesting about one trophy in 24 years.
Right,
and that's why they're protesting.
What's the answer to that then?
I will also add in that I think the protest has also probably gone, and that's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why the ticket prices have been frozen.
That's good. See, that has made an impact.
Well, not only have they been frozen, in real terms, they've actually been reduced because of inflation. Those season tickets that have been frozen,
really, they should never be that high. They should never be that high.
They should never be that high, but that's another conversation.
If Spurs
if they manage to sell that ground out every week, they can charge what they like. Yes, tourists are going to come along, but they've now changed the rules about CRNs and everything else to stop the away fans getting tickets in the south stand. So, the only thing I disagree with what they've done today is this whole memorial thing, where if you've got someone in your family or someone who's passed away and you want to give them their details to the club, they'll mention them on a screen. And it's a great way of getting the names of all the people whose season tickets have now fallen into the hands of their loved ones without having changed the name. So there's a little bit of skullduggery.
Let's hear from Luke about the board. What's your thoughts on Levy? Because Paul, I get your stance on it. I just wasn't very happy when you were saying that them fans are wasting their time, because obviously they want change, and it's unfair to what you said. I don't think you might not agree with it. You might not do it yourself. You might be happy with Levy, but I don't like it when you said.
Paul, I don't think it does any good.
We'll see, because it's gone on too long, and I'll be getting down there. I've been to the protests. I'm going to be getting back down there. So I take offence to what you said, Paul.
But all the people I know just laugh about the people that do go on these protests, because they don't really know.
Please,
any solution.
Just be a bit more respectful about it, man. Honestly, you don't agree with it. If you don't want to do it, I'm not telling you that. Just try and understand from those those fans' perspective that
Ooh,
we've had
balloons.
enough.
Ooh.
Look, you're taking a mick now, Paul. That's not nice, man. Come on. Just
Well,
you
I
might
just
not
don't
agree with
think
it, but
it
just
helps
be a bit.
the players.
Huh?
I
What?
don't think it helps the players. The atmosphere, that negative atmosphere.
I don't agree with that.
singing
I think the atmosphere was incredible when they done that. I think that the inside
They-
and every
Right,
reporter actually mentioned it, and everyone that reports on Spurs or reports on football said the one thing that they got really, really right, or two things they got really, really right with the protest. One of them, it was very inclusive, whereas before it was almost like an aggression, so it pushed a lot of people away. Whereas this one, there was none of that. There was families, there was kids all involved, and the second thing was that it didn't affect the atmosphere in the stadium. So
what about the tifo? When they threw them all onto the pitch, that was a really clever thing to do, wasn't it? There's the cardboard thing, whatever, the tifo. What do you call it?
What you going on about, Paul?
That was a nice idea. When
Okay.
we had the thing in the south
the
stand,
cards, they screwed up a couple of cards and threw them on the pitch, I think.
they all ended up on
I
the
want to hear
pitch.
from Luke now, man. Let me hear from Luke and the protest. And
I apologise
your
if
thoughts
I've
on the
upset you,
board.
Dan.
No, it's not just me. It'll be people watching. It's. Look. I said
Okay.
my bit. I said my bit, man. Let's move on. Luke, what's your opinion on the board and the club? And...
I completely agree with the protests. I think they're right. I think if it creates any change, then that's exactly what needs to happen. I'm not in the band where anyone but Levy. I think again we need to just put a little bit of perspective here. Man United went ahead and took Ratcliffe on because he was a local lad, and everyone said that he was going to be absolutely amazing for the club. And within a few months, he's sacking 2,000 local people. So I don't think Levy is the worst owner like we say he is. I think he's taken us to a level what he's done off the pitch, and that's the part I do agree with. I think off the pitch, what he's done is remarkable at our football club. But there is, in all walks of life, there is a certain time where you get somewhere and you can't go any further. And I think that's him. I don't think he's going to take the next step. I don't think he's going to, when we say about semi-finals and finals, he's not responsible for what goes on the pitch, but he is responsible overarching of putting the players on the pitch. And I think several occasions where we could take that next step, we could spend that extra few quid, we could pay that bit more wages, and he hasn't done it. So that's why I support the change for Spurs movement, because if Levy was to change the way that he's gone about business, and the way that I kind of read into it was the change would come when the stadium comes. He would change his approach. He would be a little bit loosen the purse strings a bit. If he goes down that route, then I'm not averse to having Levy as part of the club whatsoever.
They spend the money, Luke. They do spend money. It's just that they spend it badly, and the problem is the wages. They don't break the wage structure to sign the top players, and that's how we miss out.
And when you say that they and that's exactly it. It's all right spending money, it's all right spending cash, but if we can go and get a player that's a little bit better, but wants another 50 grand a week, we don't do it. And that's where I'm saying that I'm not saying he's the worst in the world. I don't think if we as a club want sustained success, Levy will not bring that in the current form. We might with an odd cup here and there. We're not going to be challenging for leagues or anything like that, unless he changes his stance on stuff. He loosens the purse strings. The whole 42% of our wage, the wage bill to revenue is astonishing, absolutely astonishing.
Not acceptable.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I think Levy needs to go. I do, but it has to go. Anyone can come in. I'm more of, there needs to be a change. Is the change that Levy hands bits over? Is it that he releases the purse strings a bit? Is it that, I don't know, but I definitely feel like in its current format right now, we will never be a fully successful trophy winning football club.
Luke, do you think Levy is the person who signed Ndombele, Lo Celso, and all the others that have flopped? Janssen, if you want to go back, Soldado, Sissoko.
No,
I mean, it goes on forever.
No, I think he's the one that employs the people that do, and eventually you have to take some responsibility for that. You can't You can't just say, oh well, it's not me. I think you have to be able to turn around and take some accountability there. That's it. At the end of the day, there's been so many signings that we've made that as a fan base you can look at and say, I'm not quite sure about that one. That's not going to work out, and then it hasn't gone. And then also we've missed out on other targets because we won't just go and spend that extra bit. And I think that's the problem. I don't think anyone argues about the transfer fees. It's just that revenue, that number.
People always.
The only thing I will say in Levy's defence on this is the fact that there are a load of people where people will say, like, you missed out on Jack Grealish. Loads of people missed out on Jack Grealish because only one club signed him. So, and when you've got a 25-year period of being a chairman, you're going to miss out on players. That is unfortunately part of life.
We missed out on Dennis
Arsene Wenger would have, should have signed every single decent player that's ever lived, but he missed out on loads of them. That's just part of the.
De Bruyne and Salah were at Chelsea.
But I think that to take, I think, and the actual analogy you used earlier, Paul, in regards to how many finals and semi-finals have we got to, I think that's a great analogy in terms of Levy has got us to that spot, but I don't think he'll be able to get us to winning it.
And why is that, Luke? Why?
I think it's down to he's a finance man, so he's so worried about the finance, and this has been, all of the stuff that comes out about the club. Kieran Maguire, I think his name was, the financial expert, come out and said that literally, if you want a football club to be run, you want it to be run like Levy. That's exactly what you want, and that's why when people were getting really angry with the fact that potential new owners were going to buy parts of the club and stagger it, and they were going to employ Levy, I'm sitting there thinking, if I was rich and I wanted to buy a football club, he's the man I'd want in it, because I know that I'm never going to lose money, because he's always going to make money, because he's not going to spend it. He's not going to use the wages and everything else. So I think he needs to take that next step. I think we should never be I don't want to be a Villa. I don't want to be running at 92% of our revenue on wages. I don't want to be a Jim Ratcliffe where we're sacking. Yeah, I don't want to be a Jim Ratcliffe where we're sacking thousands of staff and not providing them with a sandwich. But we have to take that next step. And also, and this is the thing, and with business, everyone says that Levy is an unbelievable businessman, and I think to a degree that's obviously very, very correct. But if he would have managed to get a one league title, a couple of FA Cups, then this club would be worth far more than what it is. So maybe if he gave a little bit more now, he'll reap the rewards.
I'm sure he knows that.
And that's where I think the difference is. That's why I think with the whole change for Spurs, I'm very much in the camp that I think it's something we should be doing. And as I said, I think that concessions, I think every fan is of the opinion that if we was to be spending everything we can spend, and our wage budget was at absolute max, and then we're getting increases on ticket prices, we could understand it. But if we're getting ticket prices being increased left, right, and centre, I know they've been frozen for this year, but we're paying the highest amount, and we're not bringing in the wages. We're not spending the wages. We're not bringing in these top players. Then I think there needs to be a sort of, you wouldn't go and work as a high paying job for a low paying salary, and that seems to be what the fans are being dealt with at the moment.
I mean, I work with the foundation and the community in Tottenham, Haringey, and I know just how much good work is done for people living in that borough of Haringey and Enfield. And it's phenomenal. It's changing so many lives. So their heart is in the right place, but the purse strings are always being tightened for whatever. And you know, they're so far within the rules, the laws of whatever you can spend. I mean, I think next season is going to be glorious because Liverpool are going to miss Van der Ven. They're going to miss Van Dijk, and they're going to miss Salah when he goes. They're both going to go. Man City are going to be docked 40 or 50 points. They'll be lucky to be in the Premier League next season. I mean, we're going to finish. I predict now we're going to finish in the top 4 next season. Is that right, Jose?
I don't know where you're getting your optimism from, Paul, because for me, there's a lot that needs to happen for us to finish any higher than where we are now the next season.
Okay.
And I've explained that I don't blame one area of the club, and I don't blame it on one person. I think it's a multitude of sins that we've got at the club at the moment. If we're going to talk about the protest, I think rightly so, the club needs to be challenged, and I think the club does need to be challenged because, you know, who is there to challenge the club? The club just go on its merry way, do what they want to do, carry on doing what they want to do, and he's a custodian at the end of the day, Levy, but they just do what they want to do and carry on, and it's this big juggernaut that for over 24 years just continued to grow and grow and grow and does what it does, and there's no accountability. And for me, I think that the protest is good. What Change for Tottenham have done, they've come at a different angle. They've been respectful in what they've done all the way through, and it's brought a lot of people on board. A lot of people have been brought on board. It will continue to grow. There's another protest coming up in the beginning of April, and it will continue to grow. And I mean, this is how bad it gets, right? When Change for Tottenham came out with the 3 banners, right, in the stadium, the following week we were playing in the Europa. I think it might have been Elfsborg. So it was the game before Elfsborg where the banners came out, and it got loads of publicity. The banners, so it wasn't planned. All the banners came out. It got loads of publicity, and then the following game, I think it might have been Elfsborg. What did Levy go and do? Levy went and hired extra security, and they opened up the doors a lot earlier. And they did more checks in order not to have banners go through. Now, I grew up in an era of football where every stadium you went to, everyone had their banners. Everyone was allowed to bring their banners in, their flags, their banners, you know, the rattles. If you're going back even further back, you're allowed to bring all that. But at
staple guns.
At Tottenham, he seems to want to censor people, if that makes any sense. He wants to censor people. So for me, to have Change for Tottenham challenge Tottenham, I think it's a good thing. At the end of the day, I mean, you go to the games, Paul, so do you, Luke, so you'll know exactly what I'm. If anything happens at the game, the music gets turned up so loud that you try to drown out everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, if you're
you would do the same. You would do the same if it was your business.
If you're supplying a service, right? If you're supplying a service, it doesn't matter what industry we work in. If we're supplying a service, then the people that you serve or your clientele, however you want to look at it, in whatever business you do, you've got to listen to them because that's who you're serving. Now, at the end of the day, the club needs to listen to the fans. If the fans are not happy, they've got to be listened to, not drowned out. So therefore, what Change for Tottenham have done and the way they've gone about it, they've gone about in such a way that it's not only the numbers are growing for Change for Tottenham at the moment, but the reach into like Sky News showing it, Talk Sport getting involved, BBC getting involved, all the top channels wanting to interview people from there, and you know, and it's publicity that Mr. Levy probably doesn't want, but it's publicity that is needed because that's the only way the club's getting challenged. They've had the supporters' trust. The supporters' trust has tried to do its very, very best in their own way as well, and it's got them nowhere. The supporters' trust, they put prices up, they took concessions away, they've done a load of stuff, but now it's just interesting that now that we've gone down the route, Change for Tottenham have done what they've done. It's interesting that today they announced that they're freezing the ticket prices. You know, I'm a bit like Luke. I'm thinking to myself, had Change for Tottenham not done this, would they have put the ticket prices up? Quite possibly.
I think it will be bigger next time as well. I think there was a lot of people that felt,
it will get bigger.
I feel that a lot of people didn't go to it because I think that the way that it's kind of come across previously, it's been handled with aggression. It's been handled with anger. Whereas this one, as I said, was very much.
Do you think I disagree with that, Luke? Where's the evidence of that?
Previously, there's been loads of people that have said that when they go to it's more if you're not with us, you're wrong. very much like you're either in with us or you're not. Whereas this one, and I think they've actually said that they want to be much more accepting. It's very much like hardcore people are not invited, but the atmosphere that's there, it feels like it's bubbling. It feels like there's tension. Whereas this one, there wasn't any of that. And I think there's a lot of people that have actually come and gone, actually, if I knew that was going to be the atmosphere, I would have may have joined it. So that's why I think it will be bigger next time.
Yeah,
I think there'll be more people.
A lot of the planning, because with a lot of the planning, what they did is they advised the fans what they were going to do. And they said, at the end of the day, and respectively, they told the fans as well, look, you're allowed to stay in your seat for 45 minutes after the game before they try to churn you out. So you are entitled to stay in the stadium, sit in your seat, and we can protest because they can't kick us out for 45 minutes. So all the information that the fans were given actually helped this protest because they were kind of walked through it, Dan. Do you know what I mean? It was all
managed brilliantly.
It's been managed
very, very well.
Everyone's been walked through it. So therefore, when you've protested, it's gone really well. And now that people have seen that people have been walked through it and all that, more people will get on board. There's going to be the protest. Is April the 6th the next one? I think it's April the 6th.
Yeah,
that'll be bigger numbers, Dan. It'll be bigger numbers than what it was this time. And like I said, I think you heard the tail end of what I was saying. I think it's right for the club to be challenged.
Okay. Well, so this time on the next protest, there'll be 2,000 people. Yeah. If more, that's a good turnout.
There was 2,000 at this one.
Hopefully, there'll be more.
Yeah, I think there'll be more.
Okay, let's say 4,000. Let's say 6,000. Let's say 10,000. What about the other 50,000 who couldn't give a shit about the protest and going into the stadium, going into the shop, spending their money, buying beers and food? What about those 50,000?
Oh, what are people supposed to do then, man? What are they supposed to do if they're not happy?
Paul,
no, but what are they supposed to do?
Paul, do you know that there's a lot of people? There's a lot of people that went to the protest that weren't going to the match because they didn't have tickets to go to the match. A lot of people that protested didn't even attend the match. So they didn't go into the shops. They didn't go into the bar. They didn't go into the stadium, but they went and protested. They're still Tottenham Hotspur supporters, and they still went and protested. So, at the end of the day, if we were to all turn around and say, well, what's the point? What's the point? If you raise your levels from 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, the fundamental thing about this all is that it's getting the exposure. And so, as I said, all the outlets are picking up on it, and it's getting the exposure. And if it's getting the exposure, it means the microscope is on the club, because it's not just about the fans that are doing this. Who are they doing it against? They're doing it against Tottenham Hotspur, Daniel Levy, the board. So it gets that exposure. So, at the end of the day, of course it works and it does something. And as I said, Luke said very earlier on, he said, you know what, without that protest, it's quite possible that they may have raised the ticket prices, but they haven't. So,
if nothing else comes of it, that's a success.
But Luke, I want to know from Paul, what are fans supposed to do if they're not happy? Paul, what are they supposed to do?
What are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
I think they need to see the bigger picture. I know it's been a long, long time since we've won anything. I get
24 years of failure.
The bigger picture of what we're building. We're building a very successful team for the future. I don't understand why people can't see
doing
that.
This. The future. They've been saying that for years. When are they actually going to go through with it and actually provide a team on the pitch to win things? When are they going to do it? They built the stadium.
We will this season.
They built the stadium to be able to compete with the other top teams in the Premier League. Yeah, 60,000 seater stadium. Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. But they're still not breaking the wage structure to bring in the top players. They're not doing it.
That is wrong.
They don't want to win, Paul. This board do not want to win.
What would be the point of them not winning? Surely the value of the club.
They're more interested in everything else. They're more interested in everything else other than the football pitch. Yeah, the go-karts, the skywalk, the concerts, the NFL. They're bringing in all this extra money. Why don't they break the wage structure and go out and be serious? This summer, in this summer transfer window, go and buy 3 or 4 top players, get rid of Ange, get a good coach in, and be serious. Yeah? 3 or 4 top players to bring into this side. I do think we've got some good players. I think we've got potential young players who could really work out. All it needs is that 3 or 4 top players, experienced winners into that side with a decent coach and mean business.
The owners
What's
are
stopping Levy and co from doing that, Paul? What is
How are you
it?
going to do
What's
that
stopping them?
if they're not in Europe next season?
Well, they need to learn from their mistakes, don't they? And actually take the footballing side seriously.
The problem we've got is that we've got a brand. There's a brand that's being built outside of the football that's absolutely mega successful, right? Mm-hmm. And no one's doubting that. What they're doing.
Well, how good is it, Jose?
No, it's not that. No, Dan, it's not. So you can see the brand that's being built outside the football, and that is absolutely super duper for Enoch and that. But the 4 of us on the panel now, and the people in the chat, are not about Tottenham Hotspur Enterprises. We are about Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So what we want to see is we want to see our club, the footballing side of it, do well. The problem that we've got at Tottenham, and it's a fundamental problem, is that within the top level structure, i.e. Levy and the board, we do not have any footballing people. Everybody is about the spreadsheet and the pound note and the bottom line. And it's all right to run a business like that. And you can run your enterprise, Tottenham Hotspur Enterprise, run it like that. But what we want to see on the football side is we want to see them put the same passion into the football side. So therefore, that we do act like serious players. We have got the best stadium in Europe and probably one of the best stadiums in the world.
Yeah.
But the furniture within it just doesn't fucking match. It's as simple as that. It just doesn't match.
As Pochettino said.
Yeah.
Pochettino said you can have the best house, but you need to put new furniture in it.
I think
he's right.
And it's fundamentally, but the thing is, it's right in front of our eyes. This is exactly what's happened. Luke said earlier, 42% squad to spend ratio, whatever. That is the cheapest. Sorry, that's the lowest in the whole of Europe. Not even in the top leagues. The whole of Europe, Tottenham's at 42% is the lowest.
And I think
that's shameful.
That's why he can't get to that next level, because when you go into business, and he's a businessman, when you go into business, you would never enter into this market of there being so much uncertainty, so much extenuating circumstances, so many different factors, because for him it's a business. So if he goes and he buys the stadium and he knows he's got guaranteed revenue, he knows he can get this in. If he goes and gets the F1, he knows he can get this in. With the football, if he could go and spend 600 million and we could blow the lot and still win nothing. And that
but you want him to try, Luke, don't you? You
that's what I'm saying.
They haven't tried.
He's so risk averse.
But Dan, they have. You said yourself.
When?
They've
When
spent
did they
big
try?
money.
When?
They've spent big money on the wrong players. You said it yourself.
Yeah, but not
Their
the wages,
recruitment is
Paul.
in-
It's the wages, Paul. Why
wages.
don't they break the wage structure? Why?
If you're going
Because
for
they
a
don't
player,
have because
let's
the
say-
football isn't bringing in the income.
let's say
Let's bring in millions into that ground.
Right, let's say someone like, I'm going to pull out, like, let's say that the Juventus striker, Vlahovic, right? He's 24, 25 years old, right? Some people rate him, some people don't, right? To buy a Vlahovic, you probably pay 40 million, 50 million, whatever it is, you can pay. Lots of clubs can pay that amount of money.
Yeah.
But he might want £200,000 a week.
Yeah.
Tottenham are only prepared to pay 40 grand a week.
That's it.
That's it.
Problem.
That's it. Job done. You don't get Vlahovic. That's what we're saying. What they don't do, they might spend the money on players, but even when they bring the players in, they're paying them so low wages that's the caliber of player that we're going to get. Where people with bigger wages will go to other clubs, and that's where we need to take that lead.
What they're paying Werner 150 grand a week.
Yeah,
but that's
the biggest waste of money.
It's
The
a 1
biggest
year
waste
deal.
of money ever.
It's a 1 year deal.
Exactly. So Levy's looking at it saying, why are we paying this guy all this money? We don't even play him. When we do, he's rubbish.
We
Why
pay
do we want to sign
65
more
mil.
players?
We pay 65 mil for Solanke, right? Now I don't know exactly what he's on, but I don't think Solanke's on six figures, right? So that
No, he's
just
probably on
shows
80
you.
grand a week.
Yeah, we've paid, but he's not on
Double
six
what he was
figures.
getting at Bournemouth.
But if you look at the amount of players that play for some of the other clubs, like your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your Arsenals, Chelsea's. When you start comparing and you want to compete with the bigger guns, right, which is what we should be doing, then you've got to be paying them wages. If you don't pay them wages, the players ain't coming to you. They'll go somewhere else.
I have a feeling that Levy would be prepared to pay 20% more for a player, knowing that his wages are going to be lower. Because with transfer fees, it's spread over a long period of time, so therefore you don't actually see amortization. Whereas with your money being spent on a weekly wage, that's there. That doesn't go away. You can't split that up. That is what it is. So if we had an option of, let's say a Solanke, let's say he's on 80 grand and is 60 million, I have a feeling that if we wanted to go and sign a player that actually wanted 200 grand a week, he would be like, oh, unless they're 10 million. Like, he won't go anywhere near them sort of numbers, and he looks at it too much like that. And football is about gambling. Football is about being on the front foot. And the motto is to, I keep saying this, but the motto is to dare is to do. And Change for Tottenham put up a post on Twitter and said, what is the one change you would make? And for me, it would just be to just abide by our principles. Dare is to do. Dare a little bit. Let's see where we get and go from there.
Okay.
The other thing you can see
also comes in with the fans. They've dared to do it. They've dared to go and set up a protest. There might be 5 people that turn up. It might result to nothing, but they haven't. They've got thousands of people that have been involved. The ticket prices have now been frozen, and if nothing else comes of it, there's the protest for me has been a success.
All this FFP, right, guys, and all this other PFI and all this old business that they were talking about 2 years ago, and that Levy said, we'll be the champions of this. You mark my words, we're going to... People right in front of us, horse traded last summer to get and circumnavigate the rules. Now, if we're so good, or Levy's so good and his team are so good at Tottenham Hotspur Enterprises, why aren't they hiring the people with the savvy to get around the rules like everyone else does? Because we certainly got the money. It's not as if we're in jeopardy. We've got the money there. You know, at the end of the day, we're just doing, because we haven't got footballing people at the club. That is to our detriment at the moment, because for 25 years we haven't had football people at the club.
And before that, who was before? Before we had Irving Scholar. You can't tell me he was a football guy. Alan
But the people, yeah, but he had Terry Venables. The people they had around them, right, apart from being the chairman, the people that had working for them, they had football people working for them at the time. But we don't have
different now as well.
But we don't have football people at our club. We haven't had since Enoch have been here. We don't have football people. So therefore, the decisions that are being made by people that haven't got a clue about football. So when they go and hire this person as a doff, that person is this person is that, who is giving them the information? Because they're flying blind in the wind. Because some of the selections that they've made, you're just like, really? We've bought Scott Munn. If someone can tell me what Scott Munn does, I'm all ears. I'm all ears, because I've seen Scott Munn come, and I haven't seen jack shit from him.
Right, Jose. Guys, right, we're going to wrap it up shortly. Right, everybody can have one question to each other. Right. So, Luke, what's your question to the panel? Paul, you got one as well,
first one.
Jose, one question you want to ask all of us. And then we'll go round all of us, and then we'll wrap it up. Go for it.
Who do you want to go first?
Luke can go, or whoever's got their on the tip of their tongue.
I've got a question. Let me think.
I've got a question. I've got a question. My question is,
go for it.
My question is, it's quite a simple one. Score for tomorrow night, lads, and chat. Tell me what the score is going to be for tomorrow night.
Right. Okay, that's a good one.
3-1 to Spurs.
3-1 on the night, is you're saying?
Yeah, 3-2 on aggregate.
Okay, 3-1 on the night.
At least.
I've said 2. I've said 2-0, maybe 2-1. But let's go 2-0, because Paul's filled me with positivity.
No, my heart wouldn't take it.
I don't know. I just don't know with this team. I've got no confidence in them at all. I'm just hoping that the crowd getting behind the team will get them over the line. That's the only we're not playing well. We're playing against the AZ side who are going to be motivated. Yeah, up for it.
They've had a week off
last week. They played us off the park last week. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to win. I'm just hoping the occasion, the fans get us over the line. It's going to be tight. I think it'll be like a close 2-1, and it won't look pretty. We're not going to roll them
That's
over
extra
easily.
time, 2-1 in extra time, yeah.
2-1 in normal time. We'll
And
just have enough. Just have enough. But it's not going to look pretty.
Well, that won't. That'll be 2-2.
No, we're 1-0 down. So if we score 2 goals, 2-1 on aggregate overall.
Oh, you mean 2-0 tomorrow? 2-0.
Yeah, sorry, 2-0. Sorry,
2-0.
2-0. Yeah.
Thank you. It's late. I get
question.
For no rhyme or reason, and that I'm just hoping. My hope, it's a hope more than anything else, because Dan's quite right. We've not been playing the best football, but with no rhyme or reason, he's gonna. The team that gets selected tomorrow night has to go and do. They've got nothing else to play for, and if they've got pride and they want to wear the shirt and stuff tomorrow, and the crowd, I will say, and I asked this question the other night of people on another panel that go to the game. I felt that in the last 4 or 5 home games, the crowd have dropped off.
Yeah, they need to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, the crowd have dropped off. I've not heard them coming through. As you know, if this was White Hart Lane tomorrow night, I would have no qualms whatsoever because the crowd would be right up for it. But this is the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah, but we've had good atmosphere there before. Remember the Arsenal game?
Yeah. But in the last 4 games, I've thought that it's gone down in that. But no rhyme or reason. Rhyme or reason. Yeah, no rhyme or reason for me for tomorrow, other than I think that tomorrow Van der Ven, Romero start. You've got no excuses tomorrow. Apart from Danso, you've got no excuses. It's the most fully fit squad that we've had. The most squad players that we've had available to us in quite a while. And with that being said, watching the first AZ game, I didn't think they were that great at Tottenham. I think that we should have buried them, but we didn't. We should have a better side tomorrow. Some of their players, their Van Bommels and their wide players that they lost last week, are going to be out for tomorrow's game. So, and I know they've had a week off, but I'm going to go for Tottenham to win it tomorrow, 3-0. No rhyme and reason. I'm going 3-0. Now,
if we don't beat them, man, if we don't beat them, Ange needs to be sacked by the morning. We must beat that side. No excuse.
That's not going to happen. So, I think
he deserves it. He deserves to be sacked. Romero. If you can't beat AZ over 2 legs in the Europa League with most of your team back, you deserve to lose your job. That's shocking.
Well, we're currently 1-0 with them.
On top of a rubbish season we've had. Rubbish season.
Yeah, we're going.
That was my question. What questions you got, lads? That was my question.
Yeah, let's move on.
My question is.
What's your question?
This is mainly to Dan. My question to you, Dan, is when we win the Europa League in May, will you apologise to me? No,
I won't apologise. What for? What am I apologising for?
Just being so doubtful that we're going to do it.
In all honesty, all the evidence
at the moment. If he wins that Europa League, fair play to him. Yeah, fair play. Right?
And then he should keep his job.
Keep the job by default. Yeah.
Not I don't know whether he'll keep the job though.
In the league, because we've been truly awful. But if he wins us a trophy, he's done amazing.
He's done better than the last 10 managers if he wins a trophy.
Yeah, he has. Doesn't mean I want to keep him as manager. I don't believe in him, but he deserves to keep the job next season if he wins it.
Thank you.
I don't know. I still think if we win the Europa, like I said earlier, I still think we need to biopsy at the club and everything needs to be looked at again. Regardless, if we win it, I think still everything needs to be looked at. And that includes the manager. Everyone needs to be looked at.
We'll do a
was that your question, Paul?
Route.
Yeah, the question was
pretty much. I'll see you in Bilbao.
Luke, what's your question, buddy?
My question is, how many years contract should we offer Ange? 4, 5, or 6? No, I'm joking. My question is, what position should we be signing next year?
What? Sorry?
In the summer, what position do we really need? And if you've got a player, what player are you thinking?
We need more than one, mate.
I know, but is there one? If you got one position, one player.
I haven't got a player, but I've got lots of positions because I think we're weak in attack, in the sense of cohesion wise. Well, I know we're scoring goals, but cohesively on the eye, we don't look aesthetically good because we don't look like we play with like passing ships in the night. I think our midfield look like passing ships in the night. I'd say in defence, we definitely have to strengthen the left-hand side. So whether it's a left centre half who can play left back or whatever, we need to strengthen the left side. But I also think, like I said earlier, I think we need upgrades in midfield, and I do think we need upgrades up front.
I think the midfield is the one for me.
We need a lot of players. Yeah, we need a lot of players. But then my fear is, to answer it for you, Luke, I haven't got any players in mind, but my fear is that I don't trust Langer and Mann to go and do the deals to get players in for us, and I don't trust them to get the players that we need to get out either.
And I'll be completely honest. That is part of my reason for wanting Ange in as well. Is I think the fans have far too much confidence that the next person we bring in is going to be the right person. When the last two managerial hunts have proven that maybe we haven't got the capabilities of appointing that right person.
Well, I think, Luke, if you get a good coach in like an Areola with that group of players, with a couple of good additions, we can do well. I'm confident. I think we've got a good team. I think it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. There's positions we need, but if you get a decent coach in there, sign some experienced top players in that side with Areola, I think we do well. We do better, much better than we have done this season. Do you not agree?
I think if we didn't have Europe, I think we'd do better. I think if we had Europe, I think he has got a very similar start to Ange. I think the injuries will be very similar to Ange. And then it'd be intriguing to see whether people would also.
The injuries are similar to Ange. Based on what?
So at the moment, he's played far less games and he's got a similar amount of injuries. They've not been as long. We had a 3-month period, and they've obviously, because they've been out of both cups, they've had longer between games, so they've been able to rest them.
If we signed Areola, you would be concerned that we could have similar injuries, Luke. Is that right?
In the first year, if we obviously win the cup, if we're in Europe, if we're not in Europe, we could probably half get away with it. But I think if we're in Europe, then I think that he brings a lot. I think Areola is quite similar to Ange, and I think he does bring stuff that he's probably better at Ange than, but I think he also brings stuff that he's probably not as good at Ange at. So therefore, I think as a balancing act, I don't think there's a huge amount of difference. But
he inherited
he needs to prove it, because Ange's, albeit everyone will say he's 1-0 at nowhere. Areola's 1-0 at nowhere, if that's the case. And when he went in at Celtic, Postecoglou, Rangers won the league by 20 points, and within one season there was a 26-point swing when Ange went in there. So and I'm not trying to use this as a barometer that he's a world-class manager. I'm just saying that Areola has never won anything other than, I think, a Cypriot Cup or something like that, and Ange has won everywhere he's been. So I don't think it's as clear cut and dry that one's a better manager than the other, especially when Ange has finished higher than all of the names that have been volunteered up as replacements.
Okay, let me answer your question before we go to my final question. I just think we need to bring in a top player and someone who's going to get off your seat. We don't have one player like that right now. A Ginola type, Bale. We can go through them all. We need a magic man, somebody who's going to turn it on for us. When we need it, we lack that player desperately in this side.
And we've always had that sort of player. I've always said, even Spurs, even when we was back, I've always said, if we go through a Premier League 11 for every team, Spurs, even though we've never won it, we could be up there as one of the best first 11s, because we've always had just a star quality player. Your Bales, your Modric, your Ledley Kings. But yeah, I do agree. I do think
but since we've played robotic football for the last 10 years or plus, you don't have the Mavericks anymore in teams. They're very far and few between. You go back 15.
Well, we had Kane. We had Kane. We had Bale. We had Modric.
I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, down and further back. Every team would have Mavericks. And because everyone's become robotic, and everyone wants to play this high line. It's not just Tottenham that play it. There's about 16 teams in the Premiership that play this high line now. They play high line. The players are told where to pass the ball, what channel to be in. They're not allowed to think for themselves. It's robotic football, and with robotic football, you're not going to get you're stifling. The skilled players, the Mavericks, You stifle them by playing robotic football. And it's not just Tottenham; it's a lot of teams suffer from this now as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, my final question, and we really need to close down. Right? Who, if Ange goes, who are you bringing in as manager? Start off with Jose. You go first.
Xavi, straight away. Xavi is the man for me. Xavi works with youngsters. Xavi has won with youngsters. So at the end of the day, I would bring Xavi in. Xavi, for me, I'd take a punt on him. He would work with youngsters. He plays football the right way. It wouldn't be defensive football. He plays football in the right way. Whether he plays a 4-3-3 or he'd probably play a 4-3-3 now in Xavi the way he plays. But his 4-3-3 would not leave us as open, if you like, the way that he plays his football. A right back would be a right back. A left back would be a left back. And yeah, to me, Xavi's available at the moment. I would give Xavi a chance and give him a punt. Can't do any worse than some of the managers we've had in recent seasons. So yeah, I'd give Xavi a punt. Give him a 2-year contract, and see how it goes. And if he does well and he grows the team, you give him longer, don't you?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Xavi.
Paul, who would you take? I know you don't want Ange to go, but who would you have in?
No, I don't think he'll go when he's ready to go. And I think
you have to give us a name, Paul. Come on.
My heart would say get back my favourite manager, which was Pochettino.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you guys, because of what you're all wishing for, you're going to end up with Gareth Southgate. And good luck to you, because that's when I don't renew my season ticket.
Okay. And Luke, who's yours?
It's a tough one. I think again, Xavi, it's a bit of a gamble. I could see what he would bring in a positive aspect, and I think if you looked at all the positive aspects of any option, that's great. But then obviously they will come with negatives as well. Yeah, I think it's a real tough one. It is a real tough one. I actually think that Pochettino probably would be the next one, but I think that's just more. Yeah, it's just I think it's just lack of options. As I say, I think with as someone just mentioned in the chat about Areola, he's been able to adopt his tactics with the injury crisis because he doesn't have games midweek. So that's the reason why he's been able to do that. And I'm not saying that he come in and he'll be terrible or anything like that, but I just think that he's got flaws in his game as well that we don't watch him every week, and therefore we won't see them. Whereas with Spurs, we're all watching them. So I'd go Pochettino, but bring Xavi in. At least he's won some stuff, I guess, as player and manager.
Okay. I'll go for Areola. That's who I'll go for. Right, guys, let's close the show down. Let's say a big thank you. I've got to say a big thank you to Luke, big thank you to Paul, big thank you to Jose for coming on tonight. It's been a lively show, a lot of good debate. Big up the chat as well. Thank you so much for all your comments. Sorry I haven't managed to get them out all through the night. I've been distracted by the conversation. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Take care of yourselves and good night. And
come on, you Spurs. See you now.
Thank you, everyone. Come on, you Spurs.
Take care.
Enjoy.